Chapter 101 Lunatic. Chapter 101 Lunatic. P4553R. With his final words, the palms gushed out a tricolored mist. In a mere blink, it rotated around him like a tornado, obscuring his form. Zhuo gave a cold laugh inside. Those from Qingcheng Hall are focused on practicing poison and, just like Mary Woods, who focus on speed, their bodies aren't tempered at all. Their bodies were weak, and to cover it up, he hid in the mist, at a safe distance. Too bad your trick won't work on me. His eyes flashed and Zhuo charged, planning on wringing the punk's neck in one move. But he stopped soon after, as he looked at the mist. He realized something. Damn, it's a trap. He came here to exact revenge for Xiao Dandan, but in fact, he's been egged on to come here and probe me. If not, Drifting Flowers Edifice's men would have come to settle their disciples' matter. Why would they let this kid steal the limelight? Zhuo breathed in and his eyes returned to the usually calm and calculative look. Iris Overseer is unclear on who I am and tricked this kid into testing me. I can assume there are a few profound heaven experts already watching. Humph, not a bad plan. Zhuo laughed coldly inside as he withdrew, no longer having the desire to kill in his eyes under these circumstances. He must not win no matter what. Ha ha ha, punk, weren't you cocky of your speed? Come on then. Yan Fu's egotistical voice came from inside the mist. Zhuo tapped his chin with a faint smile. Ha ha ha, think I'm stupid? You come out if you dare. I don't believe you'll stay there for a lifetime. When you're out of Yuan Qi, I will put you in your place. Humph, you're sadly mistaken if you think the Rainbow Cloud Palm is only used for defense. I will let you experience the perfect martial art. Whoosh! 3 tendrils of mist moved from the tornado, like hands, going after Zhuo, their speed no less than his. Zhuo ducked and dodged through the gaps in the attacks. But the tendrils suddenly turned and came from his back. Ha ha ha, now you see, punk? Qingcheng Hall's Rainbow Cloud Palm isn't just for defense. No matter what you do, you will still die. Yan Fu was cackling smugly, while Zhuo was dodging with contempt. Poison users were strong and weak at the same time. Before the poison was dispelled, the user would be invincible. But after, he was the weakest person ever. He'd be even weaker than a cultivator at the same stage. Among the 10 ancient emperors, not one relied on poison as their main path. The Qingcheng Hall was so stuck up because of this technique, because there hadn't been anyone who could counter it. Humph, once I deal with your palm technique, the Qingcheng Hall will be kicked out of the 7 houses. See how you'll cry then. As for now, humph, I'll endure. Zhuo gnashed his teeth, but his silence only worked to bolster Yan Fu's haughty attitude, thinking he was scared. Punk, don't think you can mess with 7 noble houses just because you're a bit stronger than average. You might not care about the rest of them, but, let me tell you, when provoking Qingcheng Hall, all that you'll receive is death. The hell, when did I go and do that? Didn't you pick on me on purpose? Gasping, Zhuo clenched his fists. This punk is too damn patronizing. I might fake defeat, but not before I let him have a small taste. At this thought, Zhuo stopped his running, as if tired. Yan Fu was thrilled, sending the red, yellow, and green tendrils of poisonous mist right for him, but Zhuo squinted and with a loud bang, he charged through the 3 tendrils of poison and into the mist like an artillery shell. Yan Fu could foresee what Zhuo was planning to do and became startled. He was preparing to move out of the way. But he was late to react and Zhuo was already before him, his hand clutching at his neck. Son of a bitch, if poison is so great, then, you and I will die together then. Poison seeped into his body and Zhuo's face alternated between red, yellow and green. His mouth and nose were bleeding constantly, but he couldn't care less, kicking Yan Fu in the chest. Bones cracked with a crisp sound and Yan Fu spat blood. His eyes were filled with fright. He couldn't believe there was a man who didn't fear poison and charge in with such determination. Most people would have hesitated in face of a poison mist. But who knew Zhuo Fan to be the exception? His method was that of staunch determination, choosing death for both of them. Was Yen Fu about to meet his end? Lunatic, you're truly insane. Yen Fu was going hysterical, watching dark blood flow freely from Zhuo Fan's face. Grinning, Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with a crazed look. I am crazy. Since I'm going to die, I'm going to take you down first and avenge myself. Zhuo Fan kicked Yen Fu's chest 3 more times, breaking all his ribs. Yen Fu was itching to cry his heart out from all the pain, but this was just the start. Before he could make a sound, Zhuo Fan grabbed his skull and slapped him a dozen or so times. The sharp sounds echoed on the street as Yen Fu's teeth were flung with each slap. His eyes were wet but had no energy to even cry. The immense pain stabbed into his heart, and all he could do was whimper. Xiao Dandan and the Dong siblings who came out of the tavern stared in shock. Xiao Dandan even covered her mouth, unable to believe what she saw. In reality, Yen Fu's injuries were superficial, hardly enough to kill him, while Zhuo Fan had poison coursing through him and his life was seeping fast out of his body. It wouldn't be long before he'd succumb to it and die. However, from the two's interaction, it looked more like Zhuo Fan was the winner and was dealing heavy killing blows, while Yen Fu was akin to a loser kowtowing for forgiveness. This can't be. Xiao Dandan watched with mixed feelings as Zhuo Fan was nearing ever closer to death, yet stronger than ever. He was clearly dying, yet in his final moments, he was the strongest in the world. She never saw a man like this. Not once. Her heart was suddenly seized by regret, actually hoping Zhuo Fan would live on. Yet she was clear that once poisoned by Pill King Hall, no one could survive, the rest of the 7 houses included. This was the terror instilled by the Pill King Hall. Didn't you say your Pill King Hall's martial arts are perfect? Didn't you want to kill me? Humph, we will both go down today, and all that's left is to see who is going to have a quicker death. Zhuo Fan yanked Yen Fu by the hair, his body trembling from the poison reaching his organs. He didn't have much time. Yet his smile was as crazed as before, slamming Yen Fu into the ground. Even if Yen Fu survived this ordeal, it would leave him with permanent scarring. Stop! A gale knocked Zhuo Fan flying as a green-robed elderly drifted to Yen Fu. He gave him a pill, checked his wounds, then sighed his poisonous eyes, then snapped to Zhuo Fan, glinting with murderous intent. 1,000 meters out, on a tall building, stood 2 figures. One was middle-aged with a split mustache, the other was a red-haired elderly. The 2 watched Zhuo Fan with a sigh. They say that some are so stubborn they can't see they're going to die. This kid's desperate and suicidal act is Pill King Hall's bane. If the rest of the houses did the same, would vicious Pill King dare run rampant again? 5th Elder laughed in lament. This kid's character is something I like. Nodding, Lin Zitian said, I know now why Tianyu lost. It would have been a miracle if he won when meeting such a lunatic, one that is so strong too. When meeting an unbeatable opponent, one must not make an enemy out of him or the result would be devastating. Most people's first thought is to run to save their lives, and by the time they react, it would be too late. This is why Pill King Hall is still held in fear. 5th Elder nodded and flew away, leaving his words behind. It's a pity. With this man's strong body, under my guidance, his future would have been bright. With Pill King Hall's poison in him, it is ruined. 5th Elder. Lin Zitian shouted from behind, is he not Zhuo Fan? Startled, 5th Elder turned to look at him and shook his head. Zhuo Fan is as treacherous as a fox, cunning as a wolf, dangerous as a snake, and savage like a tiger. Not only does this kid not look like him, he is all brawn and no brain. Even if they both do not fear death, they are totally different. Lin Zitian, listen well. Zhuo Fan is 100 times more dreadful. His eyes shivering, 5th Elder vanished. Lin Zitian was left with a hard expression. Hell Valley's 5th Elder was the pillar of Hell Valley, the strongest. His words must be real if even he was afraid of the kid. Chapter 102, Bodhi Jade Sap. Chapter 102, Bodhi Jade Sap. Big Brother Song. Dong Xiaowan cried out as she witnessed Zhuofan collapsing. She wanted to go to him, but Dong Tianba pulled her hand. Dong Tianba was watching the elder in green with a serious face. Zhuofan reduced Yan Fu to such a state, and helping him would only incur the elder's wrath. It may not be righteous, but as long as you'd escape an encounter with the 7 houses alive, everything else was just details. Hey, wench, take care of my disciple. Vicious Pill King turned to Xiao Dandan, his eyes flashing green. She shivered from fear as she pointed at herself. Why, you mean me? Cut the crap. My disciple ended up like this for your sake. Who else should be looking after him if not you? Yen Song spoke in an irreproachable manner. Xiao Dandan was forced to obey despite her wishes. Yan Fu's mangled body stirred endless disgust in her. Who told him to stick his head out for me? Not me. He dragged me here to mess with Song Yu, and now that he got hurt, I have to look after him? Picking up on her loathing, Yen Song spoke in a threatening tone. Wench, my disciple got hurt for your sake, and you're just going to ignore him? Shivering, Xiao Dandan shook her head again and again. No, I wouldn't dare. Humph, you'd better. My disciple took a liking to you, so you better not let him down, or I will make you beg for the sweet release of death. Snorting, Yen Song left his precious disciple in Xiao Dandan's care, then walked to Zhuofan. The latter was on the ground, seemingly having stopped breathing, but his mind was hard at work paying attention to all that was happening also. He wasn't as poisoned as he had let on. He just cancelled out Yan Fu's 3 poisons with the use of demon transformation art and put on this act to dupe the crowd. Feeling Yen Song's naked killing intent with every step, Zhuofan's fist tightened. I'm already poisoned to death, and a senior like you still wants to finish the job? If push came to shove, his only choice was to expose his real identity. Despite having a 5th-grade demonic treasure body, an all-out strike from a profound heaven expert would leave him with a heavy wound. At the very least, his inner organs would be damaged. Zhuofan was ready to react at a moment's notice and strike down the insufferable vicious Pill King. Suddenly, lighting crackled along his thunder ring, left him startled. That guy can't be here, right? Yet familiar laughter echoed as a person flashed 100 meters from Zhuofan. Ha ha ha, and here I thought the magnificent and grand vicious Pill King was amazing, while instead, he delights in picking on the weak. It was none other than Sword Marquis Abode's Xie Tianyang, the one who went through life and death alongside Zhuofan. Next to him was the same elder from before, 8th Elder Jian Suifeng. Well damn, you picked the perfect timing to show up. Zhuofan was in glee, sneaking the thunder ring into another storage ring while no one was looking. The crackling of lighting vanished, but Xie Tianyang didn't care, as he continued to stare at Yen Song with arrogance. Twerp, did you come to butt into my affairs? Yen Song snapped his eyes to him, exploding in killing intent. Jian Suifeng rested his hand on Xie Tianyang's shoulder. Tianyang, this doesn't concern us. 8th Elder, Drifting Flowers City isn't Pill King Hall's turf. Why should we be scared of him? Xie Tianyang grinned, sticking out his chin. Jian Suifeng shook his head. Ever since the Battle of Blue Expanse City between Yu Giki and Zhuofan, Xie Tianyang had become a busybody. He just couldn't stand by and watch injustice playing before him. This quirk wasn't that bad, but it didn't do any good either. The elder didn't stop him in normal cases. But right now, he had gone too far. To dare to butt in the 7 houses' affairs, this had left the Sword Marquis Abode's elders in a panic. He could not fathom the consequences. That Zhuofan was all by his lonesome self, messing with whoever that crossed him as he wished. But Tianyang represented Sword Marquis Abode. Just what did the elders teach him? Furthermore, did he have to go against the vicious Pill King out of all of them? Jian Suifeng gave a wistful smile as he apologized in Xie Tianyang's stead. Ha ha ha, Elder Yen Song, I am Sword Marquis Abode's 8th Elder, Jian Suifeng. Please don't mind the words of an ignorant youth. No wonder he dares act so presumptuous. He's from Sword Marquis Abode. Yen Song's eyes drifted over the two, then shook his head at the breathless Zhuofan. Whatever, I'll let Sword Marquis Abode have this one and won't punish this punk myself. He inhaled my disciple's poison anyway and won't have long to live." Yen Song emphasized the word disciple, pointing out the fact his disciple was the one that would kill this kid. It was a message to them: it has nothing to do with me. I'm not picking on the weak, so don't you freakin' start spreading false rumors and ruining my name, Sword Marquis Abode. Jian Suifeng was clear on his hidden meaning and nodded. Ha ha ha, Elder Yen Song has a fine disciple. How could any common person be his match? This kid dared to mess with him, so death is what he deserves. Yen Fu nodded in satisfaction. At least you're tactful. He then flashed before Xiao Dandan and took her and his disciple away. His disciple won, but it was a wretched win if he lingered any more. The Sword Marquis Abode might figure out his disciple killed his opponent with poison while getting beaten like a punching bag. He'd have no face left then. There weren't many who knew this, to begin with, only Drifting Flowers Tower, Merry Woods and Hell Valley, but the fewer that did, the better. This was all to avoid making a disgrace of himself. When the old man left, Jian Suifeng took a deep breath. Though Jian Suifeng, who was filled with hatred, gnashed his teeth while looking at Zhuo Fan slowly dying. Bastard! He flaunts his power at every chance and disgraces all the 7 houses. Alright already. Do you think you're that monster, Zhuo Fan? That you can do anything you want? After cuffing Xie Tianyang over the head, Jian Suifeng shook his head. Tianyang, do you have any idea how dangerous that was? Unlike you geeky who likes to play games and scheme instead of acting on impulses, vicious Pill King would strike at anything that earns his displeasure with impunity, even against the other houses. No one can do anything to stop him. Xie Tianyang bit his lip and sighed powerlessly. You must be the Sword Marquis Abode's young master. Xie Tianyang turned to see Dong Xiaowan kneeling at his feet. Brother Song, you has been poisoned by Pill King Hall, please save him. Xie Tianyang eyes Zhuo Fan then Jian Suifeng. 8th Elder, can we save him? Ha! You think there's anyone in this world that can cure Pill King Hall's poison? If there was, it wouldn't have grown into such a fearful figure. Jian Suifeng shook his head. Tianyang, don't mess with other people's problems. Xie Tianyang watched Dong Xiaowan hopeless. Forgive me, miss, I cannot help him. And left with Jian Suifeng. Dong Xiaowan cried as she turned to her brother. Dong Tianba sighed. At the end of it all, dear little brother Song met his doom because of us. We will return his body to Nitrain City and bury him there. The Song clan will be then declared our kin. Dong Xiaowan sniffed and nodded. Wait. A sudden voice stopped them. Chuchu appeared. He's been poisoned by Rainbow Cloud Palm. If you touch him you will also suffer. What? The two backed off a few steps. Dong Xiaowan watched Chuchu mournful. What can we do? We can't just leave Big Brother Song's body here. Leave him to me. I will heal him. Chuchu bound Zhuo Fan in a ribbon and vanished, leaving the Dong siblings in shock. The Sword Marquis Abode of the 7 noble houses couldn't do anything. Yet, a hick woman could. The two couldn't make heads or tails of it, but Zhuo Fan was the most in shock. He observed the 3 poisons in his body combining and ever-changing, amplifying its toxicity. Was there any other method that could remove it besides the demon transformation art? Maybe. His guess got him in high spirits. 15 minutes later, in the slums, Chuchu laid Zhuo Fan on the earthen bed, and her hand flashed with a bottle the instant she uncorked it. The scent wafted everywhere in the room. Zhuo Fan was startled, yet, despite his eyes being close, they still trembled. This was what he was after from the start, the heavenly treasure. Bodhi Jade's sap. A green drop landed on Zhuo Fan's lip, sliding in his mouth. In that instant, Zhuo Fan felt a boundless vitality soaring ever higher in his body, wrapping every inch of his body. He was so happy, but the sorrow in his heart dwarfed it. Sister, it would have been better if you dripped it on my egg. Chapter 103 Incredible. Chapter 103 Incredible. A green light spread throughout his body, into every damaged fiber left behind by the poison. In 6 hours, his face no longer looked ill. Zhuo felt the medicine did its job and faked a faint breath, as though he had just recovered. He was muttering all the while to make his weakened state believable. Chuchu nodded slightly and helped Zhuo to sit on the heated bed. She took a seat behind him, releasing a silver glow from her hands as she rested them on his back. Shivering from the sharp cold, Zhuo sensed a frigid een seeping into his body and flowing through his meridians to clear any leftover poison. His body had little poison to begin with, and the poisoning he showed on the surface was already cleared up thanks to the Bodhi Jade sap. If this process continued, the cat would be out of the bag. No one would fear Qingcheng if their poison was so easily removed. Furthermore, with how knowledgeable Chuchu seemed regarding Qingcheng's poison, if a drop of Bodhi Jade sap was enough to cure him, she wouldn't have followed through with the healing. Zhuo was frowning at this point. No, I cannot let that happen. I can't have her realize the truth or I'll be exposed. So Zhuo used the demon transformation art to remove the een energy. Chuchu was startled, thinking the poison countered her efforts, so she added more strength. Zhuo tweaked his cultivation method to match her rate of pushing yuan qi into his body until, at some point, Chuchu sensed her yuan qi moved uninhibited through his body. However, a light scowl adorned her face. I cannot believe the Qingcheng's poison has reached such heights. The poison from a mere youth made me expend so much energy to dispel it. Zhuo secretly laughed, creaking his eyelids open and putting on the weak and sick act. Where am I? Zhuo turned his head around, puzzled. But he cried in joy at the sight of Chuchu. Sister Chuchu, you're finally back. I thought you're angry with me and would never talk to me again. Chuchu was slightly moved. It was unimaginable for this boy to be so happy about seeing her. Instead of being relieved, he was still alive. This was clear proof he placed her far higher in his heart than his own well-being. Feeling warm inside, Chuchu raised an eyebrow as she smiled. Of course I'm angry. You, a body cultivator, trashed Huangpu to such a state, and you still dare fake weakness before me? Speak, what is your aim? I don't have one. Just that when I saw you for the first time, you showed such a fierce attitude towards me. But I know you are a good person, taking me in despite your troubles. That is why I want to get close to you, understand you and become your friend. Chuchu gave him a long look and a smile slipped on her face. Humph, yeah right, who'd believe you? I saw your fight with Huangpu. You were so vicious in your attacks, using filthy language too. It was the opposite of what a refined young master would do when looking for consolation. Zhuo darted his eyes left and right as he sighed in his heart. Chuchu is wise to figure out a man's true nature after just one battle. What she said is true. Why would a ruthless demonic cultivator act all kind if not for his self-interest in growing stronger? He always felt that only the weak would rely on factions, while the strong stood alone. It was the same for spiritual beasts. Packs existed only of low-level spiritual beasts, while 5th and 6th level beasts were solitary because once you had strength, you did not need one to look for shelter. But how was he supposed to answer Chuchu? Mulling in his heart for a while, Zhuo noticed Chuchu's stare on him. It was then an inspiration struck and he secretly smiled. Brother Dong, thanks again for your girl-chasing skills. Ha ha ha, Sister Chuchu, you really want me to say it? With silly laughter, Zhuo scratched his head shyly. Chuchu's heart was growing in suspicion. Her eyes became piercing. Tell me, is your aim in getting close to me something unspeakable? It's not that important, just that I like you. Zhuo scratched his nose, blushing. Sister Chuchu, you're right, I'm not that forward when making friends with anyone except beauties. Zhuo bottomless eyes stared at Chuchu with emotion. She was so stunned that a rosy tint spread on her cheeks. Why, you don't even know how I look, so why do you know I'm beautiful? Chuchu was starting to feel nervous as she stammered. Zhuo secretly relaxed. The initiative is back in my field. Thanks, Brother Dong. Thank you for your skirt-chasing experience. Zhuo was happy inside, but his face was giddy. Sister Chuchu, I already told you, your eyes are mesmerizing. The moment I laid eyes on them, I knew you were beautiful. Sophistry. Eyes have nothing to do with how one looks. Chuchu turned her head, afraid of meeting Zhuofan's gaze. Zhuofan let out a short laugh and pressed his advantage. Who said that? Mother said, the prettier the eyes, the beautiful the woman. Your mother is speaking nonsense. Really? Then let's see. Zhuofan reached for Chuchu's cloth covering her face. She was startled for a moment before fleeing scared. Don't, I am hideous. I don't want to scare you. If you try that again, I will be angry. Chuchu turned into the scared rabbit hunted by the fierce tiger, running to a corner in the room and blushing in panic. As for her threat, it held no power. In fact, it was more dignified than her usual cold and unfeeling manner. Zhuofan was stunned. Sister, I won't hit you. What are you so afraid of? Chuchu seemed to have recovered her usual self after hearing him speak. She shook her head. Don't joke around like this again. Regardless of your reason for getting close to me, I will soon leave this place. It's likely that we will never meet each other again. What? Leave? Zhuofan was alarmed. He finally found this Bodhi Jade sap and now she wanted to leave? Where do I go looking for heavenly medicine then? Where? Zhuofan blurted, I won't tell you even if you ask. Chuchu turned and left. This will be the last time we see each other. Her steps were growing ever fainter. Zhuofan's eyes now flashed with a trace of resolution. He would have to fight for the Bodhi Jade sap if he still wanted it. But the opponent was a profound heaven expert. A noisy fight might break out and more experts would come. At that point, his fate was sealed. Killing intent flashed in his eyes and feigned reluctance in his voice. Sister Chuchu, don't leave. I don't want to be away from you, Zhuofan pretended to be weak as he got up, only to collapse forward. Even flung from 100-meter-tall cliff wouldn't put a dent in him with his bone-tempering cultivation in normal cases. But women were women. Chuchu's heart turned soft and was by his side to support him. But Zhuofan let out an evil smirk as he clawed at Chuchu. He'd force her to hand over the Bodhi Jade sap. If not, he was going to pry it from her cold, dead body. Zhuofan wasn't kind, striking down even his so-called friends if it came to it. Since she was a profound heaven expert, she slanted her head the moment she heard the sound from the swift attack and avoided Zhuofan's move. The claw passed by her neck, taking with it the cloth over her face and exposing a delicate and smooth skin. Since the first attack didn't work, he wanted to continue, but Chuchu's expression left him dumbfounded. Incredible! That was the only thought in his mind. Chuchu's features made her the most perfect, most outstanding beauty he had ever seen. This was even if he were to include his past life. So much so, he couldn't even conceive the thought such a being existed. She is indeed a fairy. Zhuofan forgot even his objective. Chuchu was also lost, not having detected Zhuofan's killing intent. His slack-jawed expression made her blush as tears pooled in her pure eyes. Bam! A crisp slap made intimate contact with Zhuofan's face, throwing him into the wall. She picked up the rough cloth on the ground and covered her face before leaving with the clear teardrops still stained on the floor. What's going on? Zhuofan rubbed his inflamed cheek, finding it impossible to forget her visage. Who knew the world could birth such beauty? I thought what I used before was flattery, but it turned out to be true. Pretty eyes are always on pretty women, and she is the most amazing in the world. Zhuofan sighed with palpitation and sorrow. Suddenly, something occurred to him, and rushed outside. But there was no sign of Chuchu or any trace of her Yuan-Chi's sister. At least leave the Bodhi Jade sap behind. Zhuofan was crying inside. Now I'm back to square one. Blast it all to hell. What was I doing gawking instead of attacking? Am I a lecher that can't move when he sees a beautiful woman? Zhuofan cursed himself as he sighed again and again. Chapter 104 Second Layer of Bone Tempering Stage. Chapter 104 Second Layer of Bone Tempering Stage. 3 days later, The Dong siblings were asking around as they made their way through the slums. "Bro Song, where are you?" Dong Tianba took his sister to a rundown house where he noticed Zhuo Fan's figure through a hole in the roof. He was sitting on the bed with his eyes closed in meditation. "Bro, I finally found you. It's good that you're alright." Dong Tianba ran to him but bumped into an invisible wall and was flung into the dirt, opening his eyes. Zhuo Fan exhaled as he stood up with all the effort he put into cultivating these past few days. He reached the second layer of bone-tempering stage. He had Yen Fu's 3 poisons to thank, for that poison was also a tonic. Zhuo Fan refined them and also absorbed Chuchu's Yin Yuan Qi, resulting in a 1-month early breakthrough. This advancement strengthened his body and speed by 10%. Now, the average profound heaven experts were nothing, and he could even clash with those body cultivators in the profound heaven stage. With a wave of his hand, he released the defensive array and walked out with a smile. "Bro, a second-rate clan such as you coming to visit my humble home truly brings light into this wretched house. Please stop pretending." Dong Tianba patted the dust from his clothes. "What's with this house? Why couldn't I enter and felt like I got slapped instead?" "Ha ha ha, you think anyone can just waltz in?" Zhuo Fan laughed. "These 3 days, I was cultivating in seclusion and set up a defensive array so no one would bother me." "What, you know freaking arrays?" Dong Tianba jumped, his 2 eyes staring at Zhuo Fan in shock. "Bro, if I haven't indulged in vices with you for so long, I'd think you're a different person. We haven't seen each other for a few years, and not only has your strength soared, but you're also knowledgeable in arrays as well as having refining skills?" Dong Xiaowan stared with her pretty eyes at Zhuo Fan and worshipped, laughing out loud. Zhuo Fan hurried to explain. "Brother Dong, don't tease me. I used to be so frivolous in my youth, but young Miss Dong and your grandfather woke me up. Let bygones be bygones. Big brother Song, it all my fault?" Dong Xiaowan's rebuking glance seemed to be sending a message. Though in fact it was filled with love. Dong Tianba smacked his lips. "Little brother's glorious success leaves me ashamed. I'll work hard and one day reach new heights just like you." "Ha ha ha, cultivation is based firstly on talent, second on luck, and third on diligence. If anyone could have become strong after just hard work, the world would have been filled with experts." Zhuo Fan gave a bitter laugh. Dong Tianba's talent will only allow him to reach profound heaven stage at best. Without a lucky break, he would never advance beyond that, but Zhuo Fan didn't want to curb his enthusiasm. "Oh, brother Song, where's Lady Chuchu?" Dong Tianba looked around. "She said she'll save you and had actually done it. She is such a strange person. Why is it that I don't see her around?" "It's a long story." Zhuo Fan sighed, having recalled the Bodhi Jade sap, and was filled with lament. "I had the perfect chance and blew it. But regretting it now is pointless. If the heavens would grace me with another chance, I will definitely strike when I need to." Zhuo Fan was filled with resolve while Dong Tianba misunderstood. "She left?" Zhuo Fan nodded with a sigh. "Bro, you have become so infatuated." Dong Tianba patted his shoulder. "It's alright, lovers will one day reunite. Just make sure to not let her go next time." Zhuo Fan didn't get the chance to explain as Dong Xiaowan glared at her brother. Dong Tianba noticed it and changed his tone. That Lady Chuchu must have left because she has another lover. Forget about her. The world is teeming with flowers, so you don't need to stop at the first one you find. Perhaps the one before you might be even better." Dong Xiaowan was bashful. Zhuo Fan watched the siblings act while blinking dumbstruck. "Do I look like a man intoxicated by emotions? My only regret is missing my chance to get the Bodhi Jade sap." Though Zhuo Fan didn't clear the misunderstanding, he continued to speak. "Brother Dong, did you come here to make sure I am still alive and kicking, or is there something else?" Dong Tianba recalled the reason for his visit and face-bombed. "Brother Song, thanks for reminding me, I totally forgot. I came to make sure you're alright and, for the safety of both our clans, to take you somewhere." Dong Tianba then pulled Zhuofan. Zhuofan was baffled but followed after noticing how serious he was. Since he lost all trails on Bodhi Jade sap, it was better to go with Dong Tianba and ask around. The trio arrived before a tall building. The plaque on it left Zhuofan secretly giving a chuckle. Meanwhile, he had a vulgar grin on his face. Brother Dong, you just said you're going to work hard, but how come you brought me to this place? What place? Dong Tianba was clueless. With a wretched smile, Zhuofan pointed at the plaque. Brother Dong, don't play the fool. You're much more cultured than me. Look, it says bro dash. MPH. Dong Tianba clamped his mouth shut as he cursed. Quiet, this is Drifting Flowers City. A place ruled by women. You think there are such places here? Then, Zhuofan blinked at the plaque. Dong Tianba looked where he was pointing and almost cried, Brother, please look closer. It's the Iris Edifice. After a long look, Zhuofan noticed right then when the wind blew the red silk away and revealed the whole plaque, smiley face, play on word. The first character for brothel is the same for Iris. This was the Iris Edifice, the top of the 15 buildings under Drifting Flowers Edifice. And the Iris Overseer too was none other than Qingcheng. Ha, so it's the Iris Edifice. I thought such a place was uncultured and didn't bother remembering the matron's name and called it brothel. You're still saying it? Dong Tianba glared at him and sighed in relief once he found no one paid attention to them. Uttering the word brothel in Drifting Flowers Edifice's domain was suicide. Dong Xiaowan pouted, Humph, all men are the same. Let me warn you, both of you are forbidden from going into such places again. Zhuofan laughed dryly. If you want to bother someone, nag at your brother. Why are you lumping me together with him? We're not related and I am a free spirit. Brother Dong, why did you drag me here? Zhuofan ignored Dong Xiaowan. The frown further emphasized the seriousness on Dong Tianba's face. Brother, I have thought long and hard these past days and realized our misfortune came from offending peony edifices. Xiao Dandan. Among the 15 overseers, Iris Overseer is the most amiable and the easiest to speak with. I want to ask her to help dissuade this grudge. If not, even if we shave our heads and hide in a monastery, we'll meet our end sooner or later. Zhuofan snorted but secretly nodded. If that Iris Overseer had any intention of helping us, Xiao Dandan would have been kept on a tight leash. She did all this in an attempt to expose my identity. This was fine anyway, since Zhuofan wanted to know the Iris Overseer in person, to figure out how deep her suspicion went, and whether or not his battle with Yen Fu worked to consolidate these guesses. Zhuofan nodded. Bro, you're so thorough. The Iris Overseer is definitely a place the two of us must pay a visit. Since bro agrees, then let's go. Dong Tianba laughed and produced a red invitation to the two Qi condensation young ladies standing guard. Dong Tianba bowed 90 degrees as he offered it. Please announce that Dong Tianba and Dong Xiaowan, along with the Song clan's Song, you have come to visit Iris Overseer. Humph, you think it's that easy for second and third-rate clans to waltz in? The girl snorted. Dong Tianba was beet red in anger, but his bow didn't flinch under the contemptuous stare of the girl. Dong Xiaowan chewed her lip and sighed. She felt sorry for her brother, but there was no other way. This was the reception all clans outside the 7 houses got. Zhuofan wasn't known for his patience, entering while Dong Xiaowan was distracted. Ladies, do you know Xiao Dandan? One of them looked at Zhuofan. She is our senior sister. What, you know her? She's from Peony Edifice while this is Iris Edifice. We won't announce your arrival even for her sake. Ha, that's not my intention at all. But have you heard? She was stripped naked by a man in the middle of the street, leaving her in nothing but her underwear. The two's eyelids twitched as they nodded. That man was none other than me. Zhuofan let out a wicked smile. Do you believe me when I say that if you do not announce our arrival, I will peel your clothes off in broad daylight? The two recoiled. How dare you? This is Iris Edifice. Is there a difference? Zhuo stared them right in the eye. His killing intent spiked and a soul ripple swept the two. The ladies shivered. Fear had gripped their hearts. Wait here. I will go make the announcement. Unable to withstand his cold gaze, one lady ran inside, leaving the other shivering. Dong Tianba sighed. Ever since he met Song Yu again, Dong Tianba felt he was a different person. Not only in strength but also in character. Not putting even the 7 houses in his eyes. This was why he brought his sister along, to keep an eye out on this brother of his. But not only did she overlook his actions, the latter was now looking for trouble. We came here to look for asylum. And you've come asking for help with that attitude? It'd be lucky if they don't slaughter your entire clan. Not only was Zhuo indifferent, but he also had a proud look plastered on his face. Bro, towards these small-time snobs, fear is the best solution. Hee. Bro, you, Dong Tianba sighed. He could only hope Iris Floorkeeper was open-minded enough to overlook this. Chapter 105 Bodhi Root. Chapter 105 Bodhi Root. The Dong siblings waited nervously while Zhuo looked calmer than ever. The lady soon returned and spoke in a frightened tone. The overseer shall see you. Oh, great! Thank you. Dong Tianba bowed, then rushed inside dragging his sister. Zhuo swaggered in the slowest and most languid way, smirking at the ladies and giving them the middle finger as he passed. The ladies stepped back in fright, and only gained some semblance of reassurance when he was gone. Hey, did you also report how vulgar that punk is? The other lady asked. The first one was sullen. Sister, I did, repeatedly. Then why is the overseer letting them in? She should have sent someone to put him in his place. The other lady was on the verge of crying. Sister, don't say it, it's useless. Do you know what the overseer said when I mentioned his obscene behavior? What? 4 words. Don't provoke the lunatic. What? The other lady was scared now, her eyes wide as saucers. She didn't know Zhuo identity, but their overseer actually went as far as to recommend not offending him. Is he from the 7 houses? That can't be. The invitation clearly states Dong and Song clans. The Dong clan is a second-rate clan, and the Song a third-rate clan. It doesn't make sense to let him go unrestrained. This was the thinking of people who had yet to witness the sheer brutality and savagery of the infamous Zhuo. A madman wasn't scary, but a pig-headed madman was Zhuo, dolled up as Song Yu when he came to Drifting Flower City, but his demeanor was as frivolous and whimsical as ever. In any case, the trouble would fall on the Song clan. So, he was free to be brasher than ever with this incentive. He plunged the Merry Woods disciple into a world of hurt, spicing up the show by humiliating the peony Edifice's disciple, and then trashing of Pill King Hall's disciple as the curtains fell. He showed no leniency to any of them, despite them hailing from the 7 houses. Yet, with all the trouble piling up on his head, he wasn't in the least bit interested regarding the danger he was bringing the Song clan. Even Iris Overseer was not willing to mess with such a lunatic, who had no mind of the repercussions. It was fine if he didn't care about his life, but others close to him. This was a fact made obvious when he clobbered Yanfu. Qingcheng thus warned the disciple to avoid something she would clearly regret. The two, though, were unaware of the whole story, so they thought Zhuo was someone of immense power with a deep background that affected even their overseer. Zhuo had long foreseen such a possibility. The one truly frightening people were those stubborn and hard-headed people that were willing to forsake even their lives in the eyes of those who watched his battle with Yanfu. He was a man who had died once, and this only worked to boost his egotistical behavior instead of putting a damp on it, further removing many troubles. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong, along with self-preservation, was a law adhered by all, be it strong or weak. Even the 7 houses had to think twice when messing with this stubborn mule, even if they thought he was beneath them. With a dastardly grin on his face, Zhuo cackled in his heart. He was met with no obstruction as he walked with the pair of siblings to Iris Overseer's receiving room. She was already sitting there, and watched in awe Zhuo strutting in. Please, sit. I wouldn't dare. Dong Tianba dragged his sister into a bow while Zhuofan slumped into a chair. Much obliged. Dong Tianba was scared witless, on the verge of crying, blasted all to hell. You're in someone else's house. If you piss her off, it won't be just the Song clan that gets buried. I pleaded with you all this time to behave. If I knew you this impudent, I would have never had brought you. Dong Tianba lamented in his mind as he rushed to make amends. Please ignore him, floorkeeper. My brother is rash and uncivilized. Please don't blame him. Ha ha ha, young Master Song is true to himself. Why would I ever blame him? Also, you two can dispense the courtesy and sit. Qingcheng said with a smile. Dong Tianba wiped his forehead and pulled his sister into a seat, while not forgetting to send Zhuofan a glare. Zhuofan ignored it, of course, since he didn't even see it. Dong Tianba sighed, his feature tenses as if at a funeral. Qingcheng giggled, her eyes drifting over them. Young Master Dong, this isn't the underworld. Relax. Try to be like young Master Song. Dong Tianba right then noticed Zhuofan taking a bite out of a random fruit he picked off the table. Dong Tianba's eyelids were twitching. He's too comfortable. This isn't your home, you know? But he only kept it to himself when he saw Qingcheng's calm state. They said Iris Overseer was an amiable person, but he didn't think it was to this extent. She's so friendly that it should be easy to handle our problem. Dong Tianba bowed once again and spoke in a grave tone. Overseer, the three of us have come with a request. Do speak. Qingcheng smiled. Overseer, a few days ago we offended Miss Xiao Dandan, and this had us in a fright these past 2 days. This might be presumptuous of me, but I want to ask the Overseer to mediate, to remove this grudge between us. The Song and Dong clans will forever be in your gratitude. I understand this matter, and Dandan was the one going overboard. I will be sure to straighten her. Qingcheng nodded, then smiled at Zhuofan. However, I can't help but feel intrigued about something. They say young Master Song was hit by Pilking Hall's Yanfu's Rainbow Cloud Palm because of Dandan. How is he back on his feet after only a few days? Pilking Hall's poison isn't so easily removed. Dong Tianba froze but for a moment, then glanced at Zhuofan. Chuchu was Zhuofan's friend, and it was up to him if he wanted to reveal her involvement. If he made a careless comment and invited disaster later, his dear little brother would blame him for the rest of his life. Zhuofan nodded satisfied. Dong Tianba was a black sheep of the family, but he had a redeeming feature: his loyal heart. As for Chuchu, Zhuofan was also thinking of asking around for her. Qingcheng was an overseer, and ought to know of the profound heaven expert Chuchu's Bodhi Jade sap. He was brief and blunt. I met a woman covering her face who dispelled the poison swiftly. A woman covering her face? Qingcheng was caught by surprise. Yes. I met her in the slums, a woman that calls herself Chuchu. The people there call her the Scourge Woman. Zhuofan fixed his eyes on Qingcheng, noticing suspicion in her eyes. It was then that a sudden realization seemed to overcome her, but she quickly hid it. Ha ha ha. Young Master Song is fortunate to have such an encounter. Your future will be boundless. Zhuofan squinted. I can only hope. From the two's casual talk, Chuchu wasn't such a sore topic. Dong Tianba was scared she had some conflict with Drifting Flower's Edifice that would affect today's talks. His hand flashed, and a coral as large as a man appeared, glowing a faint red. This item was so rare that even Zhuofan raised an eyebrow. It was useless to cultivators, but its value came from its rarity. It was worth more than 100,000 spirit stones. Dong Tianba bowed again. Then please accept this for your troubles, Overseer. I accept your kindness, but take back with you. I will handle Dandan all the same. Qingcheng didn't even glance at the coral. Dong Tianba bowed again in panic. This is but a token of my appreciation. Please take it, or I wouldn't be able to find peace. Bullshit. Riches are given in exchange for favors. If you don't take it, how do I know you'll do it? If you overlook this once we leave, That damn girl will burn our clans to the ground. And you might not even know it. No, you will most likely have forgotten us by then. At least taking my gift ought to remind you of our plight each time you look at it, no? Dong Tianba cursed inside. Qincheng understood him and shook her head as she took the item. Only then did Dong Tianba smile in relief. Qincheng clapped tryst, and a disciple brought wine. Guests from afar, you gave me an immense gift. These 3 bottles of 100 Flowers wine is our Drifting Flowers Edifice's specialty that helps in one's cultivation. Please accept my gift. We can't possibly refuse Floor Keeper's generous hospitality. Dong Tianba laughed as he poured himself a cup. Zhuofan and Dong Xiaowan toasted and drank. What great wine! Dong Tianba praised but plopped on the table unconscious the next second. The same went for Dong Xiaowan, while Zhuofan was the only one sober. Raising an eyebrow, he smiled. Overseer, is there something you want to say to me? Qincheng gave him a praising look and nodded. You're smart. I need you to do something for me. Do it well and the 2 of you can leave the Drifting Flower City in safety. Fail, and your clans will shortly follow you into the grave. Is that a threat? Zhuofan perked the corner of his mouth into a wicked grin. Qincheng shook her head. No. A fact. I know you're a brash and fearless man, but didn't you come here to settle the matter with Dandan? If you don't do this for me, I won't help you either. And with that last temper, your 2 clans will have no future. Zhuofan squinted. Let's hear it. And if I can't do it, I'm guessing you're going to destroy us anyway. Zhuofan's carefree tone seemed to say he didn't care. But Qincheng found this extremely odd. Who in this world didn't care about their clan's fate? Madman, a true lunatic. This man can't be controlled. Qincheng secretly sighed while her face remained impassive. I'm not asking the impossible. I only want you to steal something from me. What? Zhuofan yawned. Our Edifice Lord's treasure, the Bodhi root. Come again. The Bodhi root. Qincheng iterated, his eyes wide. Zhuofan's heart was in exultation. Bodhi root gathered earth essence and turned it into life essence in the form of Bodhi Jade sap. Who'd have seen this coming? He just lost his trail on the Bodhi Jade sap, and now he has clues about a Bodhi root. Bloody hell! This is providence, ha ha ha! Zhuofan cackled inside, his eyes glinting with interest. Chapter 106, Scouting Drifting Flowers Edifice. Chapter 106, Scouting Drifting Flowers Edifice. As an overseer, a valuable member of Drifting Flowers Edifice. Why are you doing this? Despite how thrilled he was, it was best to cover all bases and know the situation in detail. Qincheng's eyes showed a deep gaze as her tone grew colder. That does not concern you. All you have to do is to get it. But Drifting Flowers Edifice is packed with guards. How am I? Qincheng cut him off. You need not concern yourself with this. I made preparations. After she spoke, Qincheng placed a map in his hand. Zhuofan looked at the multitude of colorful lines and symbols blended in an intricate mesh. It is easy to remember, contains the Drifting Flowers Edifice's terrain along with the patrol routes and when they change shifts. With your skill, as long as you're smart, it won't be hard getting in and out. Squinting, Zhuofan put away the map in deep thought. This was the perfect chance to get his hands on the Bodhi root, but was suspicious that this might be a trap. Qincheng may have already known his identity and set up an ambush there. If he was against profound heaven experts, not even his wings could save him, though it is highly unlikely for this to happen. If he didn't have the Iris Overseer's help, entering Drifting Flowers Edifice would be difficult. Have you come to a decision? Iris Overseer stared at his face, her heart nervous. Young Master Song, I'm sorry if I have to resort to unbecoming language when I say this. But if you don't do it and leak it instead, I will gouge out your eyes, retch out your tongue, and tear your arms and legs from your body. Ah? And what choice does that leave me? Zhuo snickered, although, Iris Overseer, I have to admit, that is a bit vicious of you to do. Tearing my limbs from my body, retching my tongue out, and gouging my eyes is worse than dying. Knowing he agreed to her request, the Iris Overseer's heart eased. I am not one who takes killing lightly. But as you've seen the map and still chose not to agree, all those actions are to prevent you from leaking the secret, be it through writing or otherwise. Rolling his eyes, Zhuofan's mouth twitched. Then, why must you take my feet? Is my feet useful in writing? I don't know. With what an oddity young Master Song is, who knows what you're truly capable of? Qingyun gave a silly smile, hidden behind her veil. Although her features were obscured, her beauty couldn't be hidden. Zhuo sighed. She is quite the looker, but her heart is so poisonous. This was something he could understand. This world was one where might was right and men ruled. A woman had to be vicious enough, poisonous enough, to stand tall in this world. With how naive and gullible that pure Qingcheng was, if it weren't for her encounter with the demon, Zhuo, she would have been Hell Valley's cauldron by now. Zhuo started to recall the carefree life the three led in the All-Beast mountain range. Those were the best and shortest days of both his lives. Young Master Song, you will go tonight. So soon? Zhuo stared at Qingyun. He was impatient of getting Bodhi root, but not that much. Who knew the Iris Overseer was in even more of a rush? Young Master Song, there's something you may not know. Qingyun sighed. The Bodhi root is something the Edifice Lord protects herself. Only when the month of full moon does she go in seclusion, leaving the Bodhi root in the treasure pavilion's care. We are running out of time, as she is soon to come out. Tianyu's #1 beauty, Qingcheng? Zhuo raised an eyebrow. What's her cultivation? Her stare was fixed on Zhuo. Until she was certain he didn't show any odd reaction, she responded, despite being doubtful, she is my junior sister, and should be in the third layer of profound heaven stage. That much should be possible to fight off. Zhuo analyzed, then nodded. Then I will go tonight. Qingyun was overjoyed and released a scent to the Dong siblings to wake them up since they were out for the duration of the talk. Qingyun explained they fainted after drinking such a potent wine, but that it wouldn't happen again in the future. This concluded the meeting, and Qingyun saw them out. Dong Tianba was more than happy to leave now that his aim was achieved. As they passed by the entrance, the two ladies were still in fear, holding their tongues in check, but once the trio was gone, Zhuo threw a pill into the air. A flash of red flew out of him and swallowed the energy-concealing pill, then went into Iris Edifice. He was curious to know what Iris Overseer's true game was. Blood Infant moved like a spectre, entering the drawing room, without anyone's notice. Where Iris Overseer was still sitting, a cough suddenly came and a person appeared behind Qingyun. Zhuo cried out, "Vicious Pill King Yensong! Why is he here? Why are you doing this?" Yensong touched her shoulder and squeezed, making Qingyun grimace and her face flash green. Qingyun gnashed her teeth as she broke out in fine sweat. "Elder Yen, I am Iris Overseer. If I don't do this, I can no longer keep my position. Once the fool gets the item, his life would have run its course and no one will know of my involvement." "Humph, you're still thinking of escaping liability even when you execute my plans. If anything goes wrong with the brat and ruins my plan, I will have you answer for it." Yensong clutched at Qingyun harder, throwing her on the ground. She could only let him do what he wanted as tears of humiliation streaked her cheeks. Yensong ridiculed, "Of the 15 overseers, I control more than half. Drifting Flowers Edifice will soon come under Pill King Hall, and the first of 7 houses to be swallowed. Do you think exposing this will help you? As long as I'm here, act like the Iris Overseer you are, not for Drifting Flowers Tower, but for my Pill King Hall. You heard the brat. There's someone in this city that can remove your poison. If your poison is cured, how will you threaten the other overseers?" Yensong gave her a contemptuous and evil smile. Were you always waiting for the arrival of such a man that will save Drifting Flower's edifice from this crisis? Ha ha ha, what wishful thinking! My rainbow cloud palm is made up of 7 savage poisons, and no one can remove it. The brat was only lucky to be hit by my disciple's 3 poison palm. If it was mine instead, not even the most renowned alchemist could save his wretched life. Qingcheng bit her lip, a trail of blood flowing down and tears glistened in her eyes from the resentment she carried. Snorting, Yensong kicked her. Bitch, get rid of him once he comes back. Or you and your sisters will wait in silence for death without me, ha ha ha. A woman will always be a woman, reliant on a man. You must be delusional for fighting against the world of man. Yensong laughed as he left. Zhuo surmised she must be feeling hatred, anger, and deep-seated powerlessness. Though it had nothing to do with him, so he willed Blood Infant to return now that light has been shown on the matter. He could go all out. He'll get the Bodhi route and skip town. As for the Song and Dong clan, thanks for taking the fall. Zhuo snickered secretly, looking at the Dong siblings without any remorse. They had elders to get them out of any situation. I owe you guys nothing after all. So, be grateful for helping me out, okay? The Dong siblings reciprocated his warm smile with another of their own. Though appearances could be deceiving, where even a smile hid countless dangers. In the dead of night, silence ruled. The street was empty, but there were some who were moving around a large building. The patrol 3 words were gracefully placed on the building, Drifting Flower's Edifice. Zhuo flashed in the darkness, wearing black clothes from head to toe. He made use of the patrol's changing shifts and snuck inside. Through a series of odd twists and turns, he arrived at a pond. Looking back, Zhuo sighed and took the map out with a smile. With Qingcheng's help, I wouldn't have known of all these arrays. There are freaking 10 of them. I just passed one and still have 9 to go. Zhuo sighed and stepped back into the darkness. He was adept in arrays, but it would be very easy to get trapped in them without prior investigation. But knowing the map and the disciples' routes, he had it in the bag. I guess people have this saying, attacks you can avoid day and night, but thieves are hard to counter. When I get back to the Luo clan, I will have to make proper arrangements so that this won't ever happen to me. Zhuo had such an easy time with the arrays, he even indulged in flights of fancy. Soon, the 10 arrays were cleared. The objective was almost in sight. Treasure Pavilion, Bodhi route. Chapter 107, Drifting Flower's Whisper. Chapter 107, Drifting Flower's Whisper. Under the cover of the inky black night, Zhuo advanced like a cat through the sentries and arrived at the inner courtyard, but for some reason he stopped, brows furrowed. Taking the map out again, Zhuo flitted his gaze from the map to the layout again and again. Someone changed it. The inner courtyard had a 5th grade array, shifting defensive array. It affected every corner of the courtyard and messed with the layout. Going by the map's explanation, the Drifting Flower's Edifice shifted once a month for protection. So much so that not even the disciples knew of the new layout. But Qingcheng was an overseer and knew the basis behind the shift, pointing the crucial locations out on the map. Now that he was here, Zhuo saw there had been another shift, with those locations were no longer valid. He was now forced to search everywhere for the treasure pavilion. Curses! Things only get worse. Zhuo sighed as he stepped lightly, while also letting Blood Infant out to help move things along. Whoosh! Blood Infant flashed through empty rooms after empty rooms until feeling a sudden powerful force. Zhuo squinted, profound heaven expert, and made Blood Infant vanish in a sparse room with a bed, a table, and a chair. A yellow lamp burned faintly on the table. Zhuo recognized the old man meditating on the bed as being Xie Tianyang's 8th elder. Jian Suifeng. The door creaked and Xie Tianyang entered covered in sweat, gasping for breath as he slumped in the chair. Jian Suifeng opened his eyes and watched Xie Tianyang, pleased. Tianyang, you've been working hard as of late. It won't be long before you surpass your elder brother. Humph, my dad always says elder brother is a genius that comes by once a millennium. Not even a radiant stage cultivator can beat him, so how can I compare? Xie Tianyang was filled with fighting spirit. I am content as long as I can surpass that punk. Jian Suifeng smiled. You mean that freak Zhuo? Yes. Xie Tianyang's eyes flashed with sorrow. Eighth Elder, my only regret in life is that I was powerless in Blue Expanse City because I didn't train harder. I let Ninger down when she needed me most. I hope the next time will be me who will protect her, not Zhuo. Jian Suifeng sighed. Tianyang, you are too talented and the Abode Lord won't let you marry a second-rate clan's daughter. I know that just. Xie Tianyang chuckled in the end. If there's one good thing that damn punk taught me, it is that might makes right. There's nothing in this world you cannot do. You all kept saying how treacherous Yu Geeki was, but didn't he find his end in Zhuofan's hands? With enough strength, I will be deciding my bride, and Dad can do nothing to stop me. Laughing, Xie Tianyang left the room. Tianyang, where are you going? Training. Xie Tianyang was firm in his decision, his eyes proud. Of the flowing space's 9 forms I only know 4. I will be practicing the 5th. What, you know the 4th? Jian Suifeng watched the leaving Xie Tianyang with pride. Watching Zhuofan's battle must have motivated him. If he keeps this up, it won't be long before he's in the profound heaven stage, ha ha ha. Blood Infant slunk back out. Zhuofan shook his head. Didn't think Xie Tianyang took me as a rival. This is good, with his power, I can rest easy knowing he can protect Ninger. Zhuofan moved Blood Infant to another room. But it was just another empty room from the map. Treasure Pavilion was always shifted close to the Edifice Lord's chambers. It wasn't near this empty one. But then, where can her room be? Sister Dandan, give me a kiss, just one. Young Master Yen, please don't. Ai, your fiancé, Lin Tianyu, is already ruined by that brat. He can't make you happy, so let me. He suddenly heard 2 voices and moved Blood Infant inside the room, hoping to eavesdrop on some clues, but Zhuofan was shocked when Blood Infant entered. I beat the crap out of this disciple, but he is now mostly recovered. Pill King Hall's #1 alchemist sure deserves his fame, healing his protégé to such an extent in a mere 3 days. Only a 7th-grade alchemist could do that. As the disciple recovered, so did his lust. He was now on the bed holding Xiao Dandan's hand without letting her go. His mind had to be in the gutter. Humph, perverted couple, none of you are worth a dime. I don't have time to waste on you. Zhuofan snorted inside. Yen Fu suddenly pulled Xiao Dandan into bed and loomed over her. Hee, fair lady, stay with me tonight. No. Young Master Yen. The ladies of Drifting Flowers Edifice give themselves to their husbands only on their wedding night. What Drifting Flowers Edifice? It will all belong to Pill King Hall sooner or later anyway. Yen Fu's eyes became malevolent as he eyed Xiao Dandan with suspicion. Are you still pining for that impotent fiancé of yours? And no. Xiao Dandan cried. Then what are you waiting for? Let us enjoy ourselves. Yen Fu started to roam his hands around as Xiao Dandan's gave off powerless protests. Young Master Yen, don't. I need to pay my respects to my master each evening. Pay respects? Wasn't her master Peony Overseer? That meant following her would lead him closer to Treasure Pavilion. Zhuofan stopped in his tracks, and his heart burst with rage when he saw Yen Fu about to take advantage of Xiao Dandan. Goddammit. Get the fuck down, bastard. Don't ruin my plans, she still needs to visit her master. Blood Infant entered Yen Fu in a flash. Yen Fu just loosened his waistband, but then felt a sharp pain in his stomach. With a waning face, he plopped on the floor. Xiao Dandan was still shivering even after he collapsed. She put him on the bed and covered him with the quilt. Then left after wiping her tears, perhaps because of the fear she was in. She did not question why Yen Fu had blanked out and left. Zhuo snickered as he sent Blood Infant on her trail. Yen Fu was no one important. He didn't want to earn Vicious Pill King's rage because of the brat. So, he only allowed the Blood Infant to suck up enough of Yen Fu's blood to knock him out. Following Xiao Dandan, Zhuo soon arrived at a large building. The lamps were lit and the fragrance of women drifted for over 100 meters. Blood Infant followed Xiao Dandan, who rushed to the door where she knocked. Zhuo was startled and sent Blood Infant inside. He found not only a woman but also a man. She was very bold and, despite her veil, her chest was covered by a thin cloth while leaving her back bare open. Her promiscuous eyes landed on the man. He was a middle-aged man, with a split mustache that stared hotly at the woman's chest. How is this a Seven Noble house? It'd be better changing its name to brothel. Why is it that everywhere I go, I end up seeing these things? Zhuo shook his head and sighed. But he was still a man and couldn't help but sneak another peek. Elder Lin, do you love me? The woman giggled, bobbing his head. The man was drooling. I love you with all my being, Peony Overseer. I, Lin Zitian, love you dearly and even die for you. I only hope that Overseer would allow me a glimpse of your delicate features. He reached for her veil, but Peony Overseer dodged with a giggle. Elder Lin, you must first make me yours before taking my veil. I will most certainly make you mine. Lin Zitian was overcome with lust, as if he never saw a woman in his life. Peony Overseer rolled her eyes. Then, do you agree to my marriage condition? Lin Zitian frowned and his face fell. Peony, don't make it difficult for me. All of 7 houses know how dreadful Vicious Pill King is. Asking me to face him is the same as wanting my life. Humph, Lin Zitian, where has all that love you proclaimed gone? Didn't you say you'd die for me? I am willing to die for you, but not a worthless death. All men are cheaters. Get lost. Peony Overseer's anger flared and roared, tears welling in her eyes. Lin Zitian shook his head, leaving slowly. When he got to the door, he sighed. Peony, I know Drifting Flowers Edifice's situation and what you're thinking. But Drifting Flowers Edifice is hopeless. No one is willing to offend the Pill King Hall for you. If you have no safe place to turn to, look for me in Merry Woods. Lin Zitian left slowly, leaving Peony Overseer in tears. Chapter 108 Seeing Chuchu Again. Chapter 108 Seeing Chuchu Again. P4553R. Master. A delicate voice came from behind the Peony Overseer. She knew it was her disciple and hurried to wipe the tears away, before turning around, but Xiao Dandan's disorderly appearance had her furious. What happened? Was it Yen Fu who messed with you this time? Did he do anything to you? Chewing her lip, Xiao Dandan held in her tears as she furiously shook her head. Master, he didn't do anything yet. Sighing, Peony Overseer showed tenderness as she caressed Xiao Dandan's head. Dandan, I was wrong to blame you. Master, I am fine. But you bore such shame all because you cared for Drifting Flowers Edifice. Don't say it. Peony Overseer interrupted her. Dandan, remember, the men of this world only know to hide their intention behind sweet words. They say they love you, that they'd die for you, but when push comes to shove, they will leave you. Never ever believe a man's sophistry. Xiao Dandan's eyes roamed around before muttering, perhaps there is an exception. Dandan, what are you saying? Peony Overseers turned strict. All men of this world are heartless, with no exceptions. Lin Zitian is the same, his master is the same, and even that Yen Fu Humph, they only see us as a piece of meat. They will never stick out their necks for any of us. Women can only rely on themselves. No man is worthy of our trust. But Master, Xiao Dandan flushed, didn't Zhuo appear recently? I heard he ran amok in Blue Expanse City for one girl, killing Hell Valley's 7th elder. He was willing to defy Hell Valley for her. Isn't this love? Zhuo. Peony Overseer gasped. I've never seen him and can't come to a decision of what kind of man he is. But rumors paint him as a bloodthirsty demon. His battle with Yu-Giki may have had nothing to do with the girl. It could be a grudge he held against the seventh elder. But aren't these all rumors spread by Hell Valley? This is clearly done deliberately to defame him. Xiao Dandan spoke softly. Peony Overseer raised an eyebrow. Girl, why are you bringing him up? You have never saw him either. The Peony Overseer started to put things together. You've been strange of late. Fussing and complaining about Lin Tianyu, while also going out to look for trouble. Was it all because you fancy Zhuo Fan? Zhuo Fan was stunned. You're saying this girl acted all spoiled and humiliated the Dong clan because of me? I don't remember having that much charm. Since when is my name enough to make a girl fall head over heels for me and ruin other clans' happiness? I guess being outstanding has its demerits. Zhuo Fan got his head in the clouds. Xiao Dandan was beet red, acting all bashful. Master, don't tease me. I was only hoping of finding such a man myself, one that was willing to stand up to the 7 houses for his girl. And that is why you found Lin Tianyu increasingly displeasing, right? Peony Overseer saw Xiao Dandan nod and sighed. Silly child, even if such a man does exist, it doesn't mean you'll be fortunate enough to meet him. We, the women of Drifting Flowers Edifice, only marry people form large clans to preserve our standing. You must accept this fate. Xiao Dandan resigned and nodded sadly, sighing. Peony Overseer patted her shoulder. Dandan, I am tired, please patrol around Treasure Pavilion in my stead. Yes, master. Xiao Dandan left with a bow. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed in glee. He got what he wanted without even asking. It's like giving water to the thirsty. How convenient. He called Blood Infant back and slowly followed Xiao Dandan, to the blind eyes of the master and disciple. After 15 minutes of twists and turns, he saw before him a 50 meters tall pagoda. If one paid attention, he would sense a strange energy around it, an array. Zhuo Fan narrowed his eyes and withdrew. This array was controlled by those who lived here. If he forced his way in, he'd attract the experts around, but why isn't this array on the map? Is it to mislead me, or did the Iris Overseer not know? Zhuo Fan was trying to figure out the reason but hadn't much to go on. He threw the thought away in the end. He only planned to take the Bodhi route then bolt. Why would he give it to her anyway? So Zhuo Fan paid close attention to Xiao Dandan's gestures as she shouted, "Open!" The energy around the tower retreated. Xiao Dandan entered, followed closely by Zhuo Fan. The tower had 6 levels, illuminated by night pearls. Xiao Dandan checked the treasures on each level: cultivation methods, spiritual weapons and demonic treasures. On the 6th level, a wooden box laid on a pedestal in the middle of the room. Xiao Dandan opened it with care, revealing a dark green root emanating a fragrance, dazzling in the moonlight. Bam! Xiao Dandan closed it and smiled. All is in order. Then a black figure flashed and struck her neck, knocking her out. He. Seeing you're a fan of yours truly, I'll let you off. A black cloth fell, revealing Zhuo Fan's twisted smile. He opened the box and took the root, but the moment he touched it, he cried out, "Damn it, it's a fake!" Zhuo Fan was panicking. It looked so similar to the real thing that he didn't realize the difference until he touched it. The Bodhi root had vital essence, and even as a root, it was still alive, but this thing had the same looks and vibe as the real thing, except it had no vitality in it. This was clearly a countermeasure against robbers. Squinting, Zhuo Fan was beginning to doubt if Qingcheng was in on this. But what was the point of making him steal a fake? Is it to fool Vicious Pill King? He put the root in the box and stashed it in his ring. Since it was fake, he might as well give it to Iris Overseer and see her reaction. Who dares encroach upon Drifting Flowers Edifice's treasure pavilion? A woman's voice came from behind him. He could feel her power and knew it to be a profound heaven expert. He made the logical decision to jump through the window and make a run for it, but was a profound heaven expert going to let him leave that easily? A thin cloth blocked his path. The woman's elegance and beauty were emphasized in the moonlight, akin to a fairy. Zhuo couldn't see past her veil, but was stunned nonetheless. Curses. Drifting Flowers Edifice is filled with beauties. Too bad yours only came after items, not to steal girls. Zhuo charged. The woman was perplexed, seeing a second layer of bone-tempering cultivator coming right at her. This was no different than a death wish. The woman snorted inside, and struck with a cold palm. Zhuo let out an odd smile just as it was about to hit him, vanishing with a mystifying phantom step. The next moment he was behind the woman, fleeing. She hadn't expected such skill from him, and that caught her off guard. Her delayed reaction allowed him to flee with a dozen meters advantage, but she was a profound heaven expert, and she managed to catch up. Her fair hand caught his shoulder as she turned. With a squeeze, Zhuo halted on the spot. He got you. Zhuo grinned. Instead of throwing her off, he grabbed her hand, not letting it go. At the same time, lightning cracked as his wings unfolded. The lightning wings were a 6th-grade demonic treasure, and would send even this profound heaven expert to her doom. Zhuo was using a dirty and savage trick, but this was what he excelled at. Feeling the danger, the woman released all her power. The cold yuan qi flung Zhuo's hand away. He withdrew his wings and cried, "Sister Chuchu." The woman was shocked beyond belief. "Don't tell me you're..." Zhuo didn't hope to have been found out so soon, but he chose to make use of the shock to disappear into the night. Chuchu was left standing there, still baffled. Chapter 109, Iris Overseer's Stubbornness. Chapter 109, Iris Overseer's Stubbornness. P4553R. Under the cover of night, Zhuo moved like a cheetah through a groove 50 miles out of Drifting Flowers City. He stopped in a clearing and inspected the ice on his hand. He took a deep breath to calm down. He had not expected to meet Chuchu so soon, and in the Drifting Flowers Edifice no less. Much less that he would be injured by this familiar energy yet. This encounter brought him some ease. Zhuo cast a look back, while sporting a strange smile. This was where his meeting with Iris Overseer would take place. It was also the escape route marked on the map. He would give her the Bodhi route here. What Iris Overseer didn't know was that he wasn't coming alone. Bringing his tail along, a white immaculate figure floated on a branch not far behind Zhuo under the cover of the darkness. A light breeze rustled the leaves and Zhuo strained his ears. He knew Chuchu was here. When was there a profound heaven expert that couldn't give chase to someone of his cultivation level? Well, of course, him not using the lightning wings may have had something to do with it. His plan was to find out Iris Overseer's true purpose and Chuchu's true identity. Who knew if he might even find clues to the real Bodhi route? It all came to him in a flash of inspiration the moment he recognized Chuchu. All that's left was for the two profound heaven experts to meet and reveal their secrets. Smiling, Zhuo sighed as he looked around. This is where we're supposed to meet, but it looks like I'm late. Since she doesn't want it, I'll just take it with me. Delicate laughter resounded, followed by a bluish figure trailing among the trees. Her soft eyes stared down at Zhuo in anger. "Young Master Song, I never took you for an impatient man, that you can't even wait for 2 minutes. If you took that treasure away, the only thing that will happen is the destruction of the Song clan. I know that, but you should also know this item is a headache for us third-rate clans. The longer we have it, the more dangerous it will be." "Ha ha ha, young Master Song is a wise man. Then please hand it over." Qingcheng smiled as she stepped forward. Zhuo took the box out and held it in his hand, his eyes staring into her eyes, ready to grasp her every reaction. "Overseer, you need to handle this carefully, lest it will come back to bite me. If it does, you'll have me to deal with." Hi, I didn't know that young Master Song is so bold and so careful." Qingcheng giggled. But then her eyes flashed when she opened the box. Zhuo also noticed. "Yes, this is Drifting Flowers Edifice Lord's treasure, Bodhi root." Iris Overseer nodded pleasantly. "Young Master Song, you've done well. Zhuo lifted an eyebrow as he gave her a deep look. He was clear Qingcheng knew this thing was a fake, but pretended otherwise. Her aim was obvious, for him to steal the fake and not the real Bodhi root, all to deceive vicious Pill King. Just as he thought, an aged voice cackled when Iris Overseer spoke. Vicious Pill King floated next to her. Who are you? Zhuo faked surprise and retreated a step, snorting. Song watched Zhuo in contempt. He, foul punk, you fought my disciple. Did you forget already? But that is only normal since you were unconscious. You hurt me. Zhuo put on a pondering look, then shouted. Oh, I know, when I was trashing that bastard Yen Fu so hard, a damn old coot jumped me. You're that son of a bitch? Song's eyes flashed and his beard trembled from rage. In the entire Tianyu Empire, who the hell would dare curse him? But that was nothing compared to saying he jumped a kid. He was the #1 alchemist in Pill King Hall, the vicious Pill King. Once word got out he sneak attacked a bone-tempering junior, his face would be thrown in the mud. He rushed to amend this, punk, that was just to teach you a lesson. Humph, shameless geezer, admit you jumped me. You're so old and yet you and your disciple colluded against me from the start. Humph, so this is how Pill King Hall acts. Strength does come in numbers. Zhuo mocked, as if grieved from the injustice of it all. Qingcheng laughed, while Song was turning purple. This punk is too ridiculous. When did my disciple and I collude against him? If this got out, he'd be the laughing stock of the empire. The 7 houses' disciples picking on other clans was a common occurrence. But if an elder joined too, and against a third-rate clan no less, it would be utter humiliation. Worse, there had yet to be anyone in the 7 houses who did this. Old Yen, ease your anger. This is his character, he is quick to anger those around him. Don't get angry, Qingcheng advised Song, but in the end she had to hide her smile glaring at her. Song's towering rage only grew. Humph, damnable punk, you're dead anyway. Talk all you want. Song gnashed his teeth. His rage-filled eyes wiped the smile off Qingcheng's face. Don't laugh and take it out. Qingcheng presented the box and vicious Pill King opened it. His 2 eyes narrowed. Bam! Song threw the box on the ground, crushing the Bodhi root inside to pieces. Qingcheng cried in shock. Elder Yen, why? It's a fake. That is no Bodhi root. Song stared coldly at her. Qingcheng jerked, her face baffled. Fake how? This Bodhi root has always been safeguarded in the treasure pavilion. She is about to come out of seclusion, and so it doesn't make sense. Unless... Qingcheng cast her suspicious eyes on Zhuo, treading closer with killing intent. Young Master Song, I thought you knew when to retreat even if you are not the type of man that does so. I never took you for someone who would switch items. You doubt me? Zhuo put on a fearful face as he fled, ready to spread his wings. He now had what he wanted and uncovered her ploy. She, a woman of power, didn't do it herself and used him, a stubborn bone-tempering cultivator, so she could shift the blame on him regardless if Song was duped by the fake Bodhi root or not. She would still shift the blame on him. Song would then blame her for her poor choice in men and would not tell her to go for the Bodhi root again. The Bodhi root would be saved and she was free from Song's coercion, and all at the low cost of a third-rate clan's kid. Wasn't this a win-win situation? Zhuo snorted inside as his fist tightened. Such a pity the one before her wasn't a mere bone-tempering cultivator, but one who killed Yu Giki, the freak Zhuo. It wouldn't be long now. Chuchu would jump in and he would then get to kill this pair. What was the Drifting Flowers Edifice's first overseer? What was the vicious Pill King? They were but a woman and a spineless coot who dabbed in poison. Killing them isn't going to be easy, but it will not be hard either. Zhuo eyes flashed with bloodthirst as he licked his lips in anticipation, as if he was a demon king prepared to engage in slaughter. But then, something happened. Qingcheng, who was closing in, stopped in her tracks and launched a blue palm to Song's chest. Bam! Among the loud explosion, there were even sounds of bones cracking. Yen Song was flung like a ragdoll into the air as he spat blood. Why you dare betray me? Yen Song crawled to his feet and pointed at her with rage and rancor. Zhuo Fan watched her in a daze, his fists relaxing. What? Didn't Iris Overseer want me to take the fall? Zhuo Fan was baffled, finding his assessment wrong for the first time. He sighed. A woman's heart is like an ocean, unfathomably deep. His guess was the most beneficial to her. But her betrayal would not only make both sides suffer, but it may lead to them dying together. Humph, Qingyun, don't forget, your life is in my hands. Do you want to die? Vicious Pill King wiped the blood from his mouth as ice crystals formed on his chest. Qingyun lifted her head, her mind set. Yen Song, get this straight. I am Drifting Flowers Edifice's first overseer, Iris Overseer Qingyun. I won't have you ruin Drifting Flowers Edifice even if I have to pay for it with my life. Zhuo Fan was stunned. Iris Overseer was usually calm and collected. The beautiful Overseer also did not use coarse language even against an opponent she hated. For some reason, he began to feel deep respect for her. Chapter 110 Drifting Flowers Edifice Lord, Chu Qingcheng. Chapter 110 Drifting Flowers Edifice Lord, Chu Qingcheng. Vicious Pill King watched the proud Iris Overseer with a critical eye, savagery dripping from his voice. Humph, a wench thinks she can kill me? You will see soon enough. Your heart has directly received my cold jade palm, and your meridians must be freezing right about now. You have no way of using Rainbow Cloud Palm. Qingyun's eyes flashed elated and prideful. Yen Song, you've long got this coming. I may die from your poison, but it will be without regrets. Qingyun charged towards Yen Song, her palm glowing blue as she aimed for his chest. Yen Song took a deep breath and staggered as he had to spit out more blood. Just as Qingyun said, his yuan chi's flow was hindered. And yet, he found no reason to fear. His green beard trembled as he made an evil grin on his face. Qingyun did not even manage to reach him before she started to tremble and vomit out black blood. The black blood was so potent that it ate through the ground when it landed. Iris Overseer swayed then fell. Qingyun couldn't understand what was going on. Hee. Wench, don't you know who I am? You think you can attack me that easily? Yen Song snorted. Look at your hand. Qingyun brought her trembling hand to her eyes and discovered it had turned from white to purple. Ha ha ha, I am Vicious Pill King. Every inch of me's covered in devastating poison. You think the Rainbow Cloud Palm is the only one thing I use to go against another profound heaven expert like you? Yen Song laughed at the sky. His sharp eyes filled with murderous intent. Humph, no one would fear me if that was the case. Hee, dumb broad, what a fool. I will kill you and get rid of future troubles. Despite being wounded, his palm had enough power to end a profound heaven expert's life. Qingyun was in despair, chewing her lip in hatred and remorse. Zhuo Fan watched it all with a critical gaze. He didn't join in because he knew there was only one person who could save the Iris Overseer, and sure enough, a white figure flew before the Vicious Pill King and struck. Frowning, the Vicious Pill King redirected his attack towards the white hand of the newcomer. Bam! With a loud explosion jarring to the ears, Vicious Pill King stumbled 10 feet back and spat blood. His hand was encased in ice. The white figure landed next to Iris Overseer. Her manner was filled with power and demanding respect from any who dared look at her. Sister Chuchu, why are you here? Zhuo Fan still had to fake he knew she was hiding nearby. Were you always behind me? Humph, you stole from Drifting Flowers Edifice and think I could not catch up? Chuchu glared at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan was startled as he gave a pretending cry. What? Sister Chuchu, you're from Drifting Flowers Edifice? Which overseer are you then? Zhuo Fan looked anywhere else but at her, like a child who knew he did something wrong. He tried to prove his innocence as he pointed at Qingyun. Sister Chuchu, it's not my fault, I was forced. It's her, she is your traitor. She is the one to blame, not me. Shaking her head, Chuchu held her forehead in anger. You brat, you dare say this when you don't have the courage to take responsibility? You deserve to be punished. She then leaned over Qingcheng to check her wounds. It's ruined. Qingcheng lifted her heavy head with difficulty as tears streamed down. Forgive me, I betrayed Drifting Flowers' Edifice. Bam! Vicious Pill King cracked the ice on his hand and glared at Chuchu. Profound ranked martial art, arcane moon art. Ha ha ha, Drifting Flowers' Edifice Lord, Qingcheng, you finally show yourself. How is your wound, I wonder? Would you like me to ease your pain? What? Sister Chuchu, your Drifting Flowers' Edifice Lord, Qingcheng? Zhuo watched her beautiful figure in stunned silence. He wasn't faking it this time. The Scourge woman he met in the slums was actually Drifting Flowers' Edifice Lord? What was she doing there? Since he couldn't make heads or tails of it, he pushed this question aside. What upset Zhuo even more was that Qingcheng was called the #1 beauty in the empire, and he did witness her visage once who could have those impeccable features if not Qingcheng. He never questioned her identity, making him doubt if his brain had a screw loose to be this foolish. But when did I become so foolish? It was when I saw Chuchu's face. Zhuo sighed. Even now he felt relaxed when he recalled that image. To think a woman could actually possess such charm. The him of before would never have imagined it possible. Ignoring both of their gazes, Qingcheng watched Qingcheng's wound and a bottle appeared in her hand. She opened it and the sweet smell had the two people's eyes flash with greed. Bodhi Jade sap. Senior sister, I know how much you care for Drifting Flowers' Edifice. Forgive me, I failed as a lord and made you suffer. Qingcheng moved the blue veil a bit and let a drop fall on Qingcheng's mouth. Qingcheng's body began shining in a green hue, filled with endless vitality. Even the grass beneath her began to grow unchecked. The poison on her hand had also retreated, and wasn't long before it recovered its white color. The greedy Yen Song and Zhuo gulped, their eyes fixed on the bottle. It was the second time he saw Bodhi Jade sap's effect, and its endless vitality left him in awe all the same. Ah, no. Another drop ruined. Zhuo lamented, considering whether or not to steal the bottle. This thought was on Yen Song's mind too. He, Bodhi Jade sap is a legendary cure. How mystical. Vicious Pill King licked his lips. Lord Chu, how about we make a deal? That hag is about to die and Drifting Flowers' Edifice will collapse without you. Give me the Bodhi root and I will give you Rainbow Cloud Palm's antidote. It will ensure the survival of your Drifting Flowers' Edifice. Humph, Bodhi root is the basis of Drifting Flowers' Edifice. Without it, Pill King Hall would run amok and Drifting Flowers' Edifice would lose its place among the 7 houses. Do you take me for a 3-year-old, Yen Song? Qingcheng's eyes with bone-deep hatred, and grandmother's vengeance. Ha ha ha, those old hags were narrow-minded. Served them right. Lord Chu, I advise against making the same mistake. Vicious Pill King laughed in mockery. Qingcheng tightened her fists. Iris Overseer gasped a few times, and got up weakly. Her pale face glaring at Yen Song. Qingcheng, I wounded him and now he can't use profound ranked martial art. Together, we can end this geezer. But senior sister, what of the poisoned overseers? Pain laced her gaze but soon her focus recovered. Iris Overseer said, everything is for Drifting Flowers' Edifice's future, even the death of all overseers. Qingcheng attacked. Qingcheng was still reticent as Qingcheng shouted, Qingcheng, we will never get the chance to kill this old dog again. We won't get revenge for grandmother. Qingcheng woke up and her eyes became increasingly colder. Song Yu, stand aside. Qingcheng's bitter voice came out. Zhuo meekly got out of their way. He was now watching the bustle and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. None of them were on guard against the second-layer bone-tempering cultivator. He, fight. Die all of you and let yours truly reap the rewards. Zhuo had a twisted grin squinting. Vicious Pill King watched the two's determination and his hand rested on the gourd at his waist. Lord Chu, think it through. Don't regret it later. Humph, I will regret it for all my life if I don't kill you now. Qingcheng snorted as she and Iris Overseer charged towards Yen Song. In this 2-against-1, Yen Song, who couldn't use profound ranked martial art, was at a disadvantage, but he wasn't panicking. His knuckles were white as he gripped against his gourd. Boom. A sudden purple lightning struck, stopping the two women. Vicious Pill King frowned as he turned his head towards the newcomer. Chapter 111 Godeye Reemerges. Chapter 111 Godeye Reemerges. Who's there? Qingcheng and Qingyun shouted. Ha ha ha, girls, did you already forget this old man after a few years? It was an old man in yellow, blind in one eye. A crow laid on his shoulder, yet had eyes flickered with purple lightning. He was Veiled Dragon Pavilion's Godeye Long Zhuo, and his spirit animal, soul-devouring crow. The pair behind him were in bone-tempering stage. Long Kuei and Long Jie was startled. He didn't think he'd meet familiar faces all the way over here, Uncle Zhuo. Qingcheng and Qingyun cried in joy. Vicious Pill King was frowning, despite his cold tone. Didn't expect you to get your eye back, Godeye Long Zhuo. Long Zhuo laughed. Ha ha ha, it's all thanks to my little brother. I have regained my title and won't cower from the likes of you, Vicious Pill King. Vicious Pill King's face twitched, but his heart cursed to high heavens. Godeye Long Zhuo's recovery of his purple lightning gold, I was akin to meeting his archenemy. The rainbow cloud palm had always been ineffective against Long Zhuo. After losing his eye, Long Zhuo was downcast. So Yen Song didn't pay him any attention. But now, he was back. Vicious Pill King squinted. His heart was in panic as his hand held the gourd tighter. Long Zhuo, are you going to join the ladies against me? The ladies in question turned their expecting gazes at Long Zhuo. Long Zhuo cast a furtive glance on Vicious Pill King's gourd, then shook his head. Yen Song, don't misunderstand. I came here to mediate. We are all guests in Drifting Flower's edifice and should act like one. Ha ha ha, I admire your reasoning, Elder Zhuo. I will forego the ladies' unreasonable act today. But they might not do the same. Vicious Pill King rested easy knowing Long Zhuo was out of this fight. His smile now turned to the ladies. Qingcheng gnashed her teeth and looked at Long Zhuo with hope, but the latter only shook his head. She could only give up. Humph, Yen Song, I'll let you off now, but don't you dare make trouble in Drifting Flowers City. He, that depends on how Lord Chu receives guests. Vicious Pill King snickered and flew away. They all breathed easier seeing him leave. Even the ladies. They may have been shouting kill and attack, but against an opponent like Yen Song, they were extremely tense. Uncle Zhuo, why did you stop us? Did you forget grandmother's revenge? Qingyun complained, but Qingcheng grabbed her shoulder. Senior sister, you misunderstood Uncle Zhuo. He saved us. Long Zhuo sighed, his voice dignified. Girls, I am the one who knows Vicious Pill King Yen Song the best. He is worse than you, geeky. Fighting him would only end in you dying for nothing. But didn't I hurt him? Qingyun retorted. Long Zhuo spoke gravely. Qinger, did you notice his gourd? Qingyun shook her head. We have met countless times but never saw him carry one until now. He must be carrying it for some ulterior motive. Vicious Pill King is rampant and arrogant, but his heart is so spiteful that not even you geeky dared mess with him. You were at grave risk today. But Uncle Zhuo, is there no way we can deal with that old dog? Qingyun wasn't willing to give up. Long Zhuo smoothed his beard. Hard to say, unless my little brother was here. He is sure to have a way. Your little brother? Qingcheng and Qingyun asked. Zhuo raised an eyebrow. He can't mean me, right? Long Kuei's mood was foul at Long Zhuo's words. Uncle Zhuo, why bring that brat again? He only killed you, geeky, and yet, you brag about him on and on for the past few months. Many from Veiled Dragon Pavilion are starting to think you aren't just brothers. He, little Kuei, are you jealous? Who in your generation could have accomplished the feat of killing that rotten bastard? Even taking him as my ancestor wouldn't be an exaggeration. What's more, we became brothers. Uncle Zhuo, are you talking about that rumored vile spawn, Zhuofan? Qingcheng raised an eyebrow. Long Zhuo nodded. Chuchu, you are an exceptional genius, rarest of rare. But my little brother is no weaker than you. Humph, what genius, he only knows violence. Killing wherever he goes. Long Kuei spoke in a sour tone. Long Jie shook his head. Little Kuei, you are wrong. Whether you want to or not, you have to admit that Zhuofan is better than us in every way. He may be a bit unhinged, true, but his talent matches the 7 houses' 6 dragons. And when it comes to killing, no one of our generations can compare. Little Jie got it right. Long Zhuo praised. But Long Kuei came before Qingcheng, not at all pleased. Humph, what are you talking about? There's no way that brat can compare with Sister Qingcheng. Yep, not right at all. Yours truly has always been keeping low. I've been in Drifting Flowers City for days, and have I run amok even once? No. Zhuofan was dissatisfied. Aren't I always low-key? I normally kill without stating my name? Yet it perplexed him how, even with that, his name was known in the entire Tianyu Empire as a demon spawn. The only one that I am known to have killed was Yu Giki, which happened as though it was on a grand display, so of course everyone knew about me from that incident. But the rest should not be tied to my name. He thought of himself as a rational and calm person, but to others, his every move, every gesture, was filled with arrogance. Qingcheng held Long Kuei's hand, then looked at Long Zhuo in hope. Uncle Zhuo, Zhuofan truly has the power to kill Vicious Pilking. Long Zhuo shook his head. I am not sure, but from what I can guess, Vicious Pilking's ending would only come at the hands of my little brother Zhuofan. I'm starting to get curious about this matchless genius. Qingcheng's eyes roamed around in thought. Next, Qingcheng settled Long Zhuo's party in the Drifting Flowers Edifice. Zhuofan wanted to use the chance to bail, but before he could do anything, Qingcheng grabbed him by the neck and dragged him back to Drifting Flowers Edifice like a chicken the moon hung above in the quiet night. Many guests were resting, except for a lamp still burning in a small room. 5 people were gathered: Qingcheng, Peony Overseer, Iris Overseer, Xiao Dandan, and Zhuofan. In other words, Zhuofan was the only outsider here. I'm finished, kaput. Zhuofan lamented. 1 wrong move and 3 profound heaven experts would jump him. Peony Overseer was watching Zhuofan with suspicion. Why has the Edifice Lord brought a nobody to Drifting Flowers Edifice? While Xiao Dandan's eyes rested on Zhuofan for a long time, Zhuofan humiliated her once, but for some odd reason, she didn't hold it against him. What are you looking at? Never seen a man before? Zhuofan was annoyed and snapped. Xiao Dandan shivered and stepped back, impudent. Peony Overseer's fiery temper broke out as she cursed him. You rude brat, where do you come from that allows you to speak like that in my Drifting Flowers Edifice? Don't you know where you are? Who cares, just don't let that crafty and arrogant lass have such a hot gaze for this handsome man. What hot gaze? Peony Overseer was startled, pointing at Xiao Dandan. Zhuofan stuck out his chin and cursed. Look at her eyes, they are clearly undressing me. Can't you see me wearing clothes? If that's not a hot gaze, I don't know what is. The 3 ladies spat, finally knowing what hot gaze meant. Their faces turned red. Xiao Dandan was even more so, lowering her head in shame. This brat is too vulgar. What hot gaze? I only looked at you twice. But as Xiao Dandan was getting redder by the second, and was close to burning up, Qingcheng glared. Song Yu, stop being rude. Yes, Sister Chuchu. Zhuofan changed into an obedient child next to Qingcheng. He knew her weakness, that she couldn't stand to reprimand him like this. At last I found you, Song Yu. You were the one who picked on my disciple. But Peony Overseer's temper flared once again at the name. Zhuofan was fearless now that Qingcheng was there to hold his hand as he shouted, "So what if did? Who told her to pick on my woman? Can't you see how rotten her morals are?" Peony Overseer shivered. Of course she knew the truth, but she didn't think this brat was so pig-headed that he dared argue with her in the Drifting Flowers edifice. She knew she was wrong. She was willing to let the matter slide, with just a small payback. However, she was humiliated instead. "Damn rotten punk, see if I don't beat you to death." Peony Overseer was ready to strike, but the one to stop her wasn't Qingcheng. She watched the hand, stunned. It belonged to none other than Xiao Dandan. She was pleading with her eyes, to let the rotten punk go. Peony Overseer was perplexed. "My dear disciple, didn't he humiliate you twice? Why are you defending him?" Chapter 112, The Strongest House, Regent Estate. Chapter 112, The Strongest House, Regent Estate. "Don't tell me!" Peony Overseer suddenly cried. "You fancy him?" This got all of them jumping, with even Zhuofan's eyelid twitching as he said in haste, "Hey, think what you like, but be careful of what you spout. You're Peony Overseer, for crying out loud. You can't just go around spreading rumors and damaging my name. Do you even have a reputation? Why do you sound like you're the one losing out if my disciple likes you?" Peony Overseer was furious. How could Xiao Dandan like a reckless and impudent brat like him? But now his words set her temper off. "What's wrong about my disciple that you find unacceptable to you?" In a fit of anger, Peony Overseer's rage shifted from her blind disciple to enforcing marriage on Zhuofan. By the looks of it, it may even come to fighting if Zhuofan kept refusing. Xiao Dandan was red as a tomato, but was also let down by Zhuofan's reaction. She cried, "Master, that's not what I mean. Stop rambling." "Then what do you mean?" Peony Overseer looked with askance at her and resentful of her attitude. Looking up at Zhuofan, Xiao Dandan muttered, "I only thought he is a rarity in this world, sticking out for that lady and standing against Drifting Flowers edifice. The world actually has another man willing to sacrifice himself for a woman." "Him? A good man?" Peony Overseer mocked. "It is fine to be hot-blooded and reckless if he had Zhuofan's strength, but he is weak and still has the nerve to offend the 7 houses. He is just suicidal. If he had offended any other house besides Drifting Flowers edifice, he'd be lying cold on the ground by now. He was fortunate to meet Edifice Lord who saved him, or Yen Fu would have killed him. Yes, last time it was Qingcheng who saved young Master Song." Iris Overseer raised an eyebrow. Qingcheng nodded. "That was pure coincidence. Once I got back, I would mention it to Peony Overseer and to rein in her disciple, not to stir up trouble. Drifting Flowers City is the only place where women have the last say in things. I don't want for women to fight against each other here." "Yes, I will be sure to rein her in." Peony Overseer rushed to make a bow to Qingcheng and pulled Xiao Dandan to do the same. Qingcheng dismissed it. "It's all in the past. We have gathered here tonight for one purpose, the theft of the treasure pavilion." Qingcheng turned to Iris Overseer and Zhuofan. "You two, explain what happened." Zhuofan was indifferent in his retelling, yet he didn't miss a detail. "I am the victim here. Go punish her." Peony Overseer and Xiao Dandan cried in shock. Who'd have conceived it possible Iris Overseer was a traitor? Qingcheng saw anger in their eyes and urged, "Don't be anxious, Iris Overseer hasn't truly defected from Drifting Flowers edifice. She knew I carried the Bodhi root with me at all times yet still sent Song Yu to steal it." The two calmed down somewhat, but Peony Overseer still said, "Senior sister, why have you been staying silent? I'm dying to know your side of the story." Rolling her eyes, Iris Overseer sighed. "To be honest, Yen Song struck me with the rainbow cloud palm when I was returning to Drifting Flowers City 3 months back." "What, you're also poisoned?" Peony Overseer was worried, That means close to half of our overseers are poisoned. Humph, half. Shaking her head, Iris Overseer had a hardened expression. Of the 15 overseers, that old dog got to 14, forcing them to obey his orders. The only one safe is you, Peony Overseer. A what? The shock was understandable. It wasn't long before vicious Pill King got his hands on the entire Drifting Flowers edifice. So that's why Yen Fu kept saying Drifting Flowers edifice is his. Xiao Dandan recoiled 2 steps and Peony Overseer found it hard to even swallow. Her despair was obvious. Iris Overseer also sighed out of frustration. He told me of this secret only to have better control over me. I decided then that I'd rather have him killed than seizing Drifting Flowers edifice. That is why I have been hiding my intention so I can strike him when he told me to steal the Bodhi root. You didn't make me steal a fake to fool him, but to shift his anger on me and attack him from behind when his guard was down? Iris Overseer, what a great plan. Zhuo analyzed. Iris Overseer looked at him in shock. Young Master Song, I never knew you were so smart. Not at all like the stubborn oaf you appear to be. Just a wild guess, ha, ha, ha. Zhuo scratched his head and faked clueless once again. What a blunder! The Song he played was an impulsive and reckless man, not one capable of deep thought. Putting together a sly mind and a strong body, what would you get? Zhuo. Luck was with him this time, as they thought it was odd. However, they were not suspicious of his identity. An oaf of a brat who hit the nail on the head sometimes. Senior sister, sorry for being hard on you. Peony Overseer took Iris Overseer's hand as tears welled in her eyes. Qingcheng patted her hand and chuckled. These 2 women had sacrificed much for Drifting Flowers edifice and took all the responsibility on their shoulders. Senior Aunt, did you succeed in your attack on that old dog? Xiao Dandan asked. Zhuo sneered at this. Oh please, and here I thought I was one who disliked using his brains, but in fact yours seems non-existent. If she succeeded, you'd be toasting right now. Why would you all be wailing and sobbing here at this point? Xiao Dandan blushed and glared at him. Zhuo callous words broke the sisterly mood between Peony Overseer and Iris Overseer. Their tears just went and disappeared. Rotten punk, can't you read the mood? I should have known better than to expect delicacy from you. Peony Overseer flared again as she ranted. The others broke in a small smile while Zhuo rolled his eyes. Peony Overseer, don't mind him. Song you speaks before he thinks. Qingcheng glared at him, then acted like a big sister, trying to make amends for her little brother. Peony Overseer noticed this subtle difference quickly. With Edifice Lord protecting him, she no longer pursued it, and her face changed into worry. Edifice Lord, with how can senior sister put it, Drifting Flowers edifice is in imminent danger. What do we do now? Qingcheng took a deep breath, her eyes flickering. We aren't nearly enough to deal with Pill King Hall. We need to find outside help. From the other houses? Iris Overseer shook her head. From the start, the 7 houses only cared about themselves. Even Uncle Zhuo, who is closest to us, was fearful of vicious Pill King, who would stick their necks out for us. Yes, no man can be trusted. Peony Overseer had only hatred from being abandoned in her chambers, her eyes flickering with wisdom. Qingcheng showed a smile. Others may not be trustworthy, but he will surely help us. Who? Was the unanimous question. Qingcheng grinned. The strongest house. Their eyes shined as hope was rekindled. Though Zhuo frowned and muttered, the Regent estate. Among the 7 noble houses, everyone was arrogant, everyone thought highly of themselves. But there was one house that was recognized as the strongest, the one who stood above them for the past 1,000 years. The Regent estate. The Regent estate's power was 3 levels higher than any house among them. No house alone could defeat it. Who'd have thought that the Regent estate's men were also joining in the 100-pill meeting? Though their numbers and strength were unknown. If the rumors were true about its power, he'd had better tread lightly with such a strong crowd in Drifting Flower City. one wrong move would spell damnation. Sighing, Zhuo clenched his fist. He needed to get the Bodhi Jade sap fast and leave even faster. From here on out, it was only going to get worse. Zhuo's eyes drifted to Qingcheng's storage ring. She also noticed Zhuo was worried and smiled. Song Yu, stay in Drifting Flowers Edifice. What? Zhuo jerked, though his heart was leaping in joy. This would make it more convenient for him. Qingcheng walked before him and patted his shoulder with tender feelings. No need to worry, I know you fear vicious Pill King's revenge. But he won't dare kill anyone in Drifting Flowers Edifice. She then left with the overseers after telling Xiao Dandan to prepare him a room. Zhuo stood stunned, feeling somewhat warm and fuzzy inside. He had always been cooking up schemes on how to get that Bodhi Jade sap, maybe even killing someone if he had to, but Qingcheng's constant care for him left him hesitant. Should I steal the Bodhi Jade sap? Chapter 113, Royally Arrogant, Huangpu Qingyun. Chapter 113, Royally Arrogant, Huangpu Qingyun. The night passed and Zhuo walked out of his room. He was welcomed by the warm sun, yet his eyes were cold as ever. After a thorough analysis, he came to the decision to strike. Tonight was his best chance to steal her Bodhi Jade sap. When Qingcheng was alone, the best case was if it all went smoothly. If not, it couldn't be helped. He wouldn't shirk from killing if it'd get him the medicine. He was the demonic emperor, and not even a woman could stand in his way. Zhuo took steps towards Qingcheng's room. From his gait, one could even see a certain growing resolve, but the closer he got, the stranger he felt. Why were there so few people in Drifting Flowers Edifice? Not even the guests were around. Make way, make way! A rash and urgent yell came from a figure in red moving with great haste. It was none other than Xiao Dandan. Thinking for a moment, he flashed before her. Thump! Xiao Dandan seemed to have smacked into an iron wall and fell to the ground, bringing sharp pain to her. But in head, who is so blind that dares block me? Xiao Dandan cursed, but she choked on her words when she saw Zhuo eyeing her coldly. Zhuo snorted. Did you say something about a blind man? Lowering her head and blushing a bit, Xiao Dandan went by him. Zhuo was even more perplexed. She used to be so feisty? So, why did she suddenly change? He grabbed her arm. Xiao Dandan shuddered and her cheeks reddened even more. Zhuo ignored her state and said, Where are you going? Why is Drifting Flowers Edifice so quiet? Where is everyone? That's because they went to see young Master Huangpu. Zhuo frowned, then cried, Huangpu, a man from the Regent estate? Why is he here so soon? The one who came is Regent Estate's second young master, Huangpu Qingyun. I heard he and Edifice Lord were childhood sweethearts. With him here, vicious Pill King will not dare to cause trouble. Zhuo's heart shook. Son of a bitch. I just decided to attack, and here comes an expert. And did he have to be Qingcheng's childhood sweetheart too? How the hell am I supposed to do anything with those two sticking like glue? Zhuo gnashed his teeth and looked on murderously. Let's go. I want to see the oh-so-great young Master Huangpu. Great? How can you be so rude to Regent Estate's young master? Xiao Dandan was going to advise him to be restrained, but Zhuo pulled her along before she could say anything. Xiao Dandan looked at their hands but did not say a word. Though it could be because her heart was skipping like a deer. Zhuo's unbridled and rash attitude made her heart jump for the first time for a man she was wishing for time to stop right now. However, with the two's cultivation, they soon arrived at the entrance of Drifting Flowers Edifice. They looked on towards the crowd. Zhuo let go of his hand, which made the young miss feel a sense of loss. Blast it. This damn Regent estate is too impressive. They are like emperors. To have the other houses welcome them like this. The scene shocked him. From first to third-rate clans, all kneeled at the side of the main avenue. and those of powerful clans stood around the Drifting Flowers Edifice's entrance in welcome. This was Drifting Flowers Edifice's headquarters, yet the procession was even grander than the Edifice Lords. Was Regent estate so strong that it could intimidate the other 6? It had to. With how arrogant and belittling the 7 houses were, they would never accept such a loss of face. His face turned grave. Zhuo Fan's eyes were like a hawk, watching further ahead. In the middle of the street, a yellow sedan chair appeared before his eyes. This sedan chair was plain, with but 4 people lifting it. They were all profound heaven experts. Curses to high heaven. Profound heaven experts. The other 6 houses have them as elders and you freaking use them as porters? Zhuo Fan's face twitched and his fist tightened. Though the 4 profound heaven cultivators just broke through, that was beside the point. What was important was that Regent Estate's power was incredible. The rumors didn't do them justice. They weren't just 3 levels stronger. The other 6 houses were swept by fear. When the sedan chair was nearby, they walked forward and bowed. Ha ha ha, I am but a young and uncultured junior. How could I trouble the 6 houses' elders to welcome me? Candid laughter came from the sedan, strong and resounding, reaching everyone's ears. The heavy power that it contained gave the impression of a mountain pressing on their hearts, robbing one of all power to resist. This was a true higher power, backed by soul pressure. Under the youth's kind words, all trembled, as they knew the words were backed by arrogance. He came out like this before the elders just to show off his power. They had to admit, however, that no one here could match against his soul pressure. Not even the elders of the houses. The strength of one's soul in the profound heaven stage was a sign of one's potential and power in the radiant stage. No one was pleased, but they had to give credit where it was due. Regent Estate would soon have another incredible expert. His power has been promised to be no less than Jade Flute Divine Sword, Fang Qiubai. In the future, everyone was putting on serious faces, with only Qingcheng lifting her head, pleased. He was someone she invited. The stronger he was, the more intimidating he was, the more capable he was to help Drifting Flowers Edifice. Qingyun, we haven't seen each other for 10 years, and yet you've become so strong. I may no longer be your match. Qingcheng smiled. Ha ha ha, Qingcheng, don't tease me. I would never dare hurt you. Laughing, the silk of the sedan chair rose and an elegant and handsome man in his 20s came out. The flicker in his eyes was far stronger than those possessed by the elders, and he also had a golden glow around him too. Second layer of profound heaven, a body cultivator. Zhuo Fan squinted. Zhuo Fan managed to kill Yu Giki so easily because that man was a mere schemer. He did not have an unyielding body to brave through any army. However, this profound heaven body cultivator was a headache to deal with. And that wasn't the least of it. Zhuo Fan sighed and looked at Hell Valley's 5th elder. He noticed some time ago that this elder also had a version of the diamond body. Not even Zhuo Fan could handle 2 body cultivators. Things are getting complicated. Zhuo Fan clicked his tongue. Xiao Dandan thought he was worried about Drifting Flowers Edifice and consoled him. I didn't take you for such a kind man, one to worry for our sake. But don't worry, with young Master Huangpu Qingyun, the vicious Pill King will have to obediently give up the antidote. Humph, who the hell cares about you? He shook his head, but his eyes flashed when he gazed at Huangpu Qingyun. He isn't an easy man to deal with. For the first time in his life, a tremor ran through Huangpu Qingyun, and he turned his attention in Zhuo Fan's direction. Seeing him with Xiao Dandan, he squinted. Qingcheng, since when does Drifting Flowers Edifice welcomes men? Qingcheng also looked at Zhuo Fan and spoke with amusement. He is a son-in-law of ours. Don't you know Drifting Flowers Edifice had men marrying in? Raising an eyebrow, Huangpu Qingyun nodded. To marry into the Drifting Flowers Edifice, he must be a man of greatness. I wonder when I will have that honor too. Huangpu Qingyun was beaming, but Qingcheng rolled her eyes, with a hint of red on her cheeks. Huangpu Qingyun laughed harder at this, while the elders strained their expressions. Even for a second young master of Regent Estate, he is too freakin' arrogant. He dares give us the cold shoulder to flirt with the Edifice Lord right in front of us? Humph, I would rather train right now. Xie Tianyang left, but Jian Suifeng pulled him back. Huangpu Qingyun then smiled at him. You must be Sword Marquis Abode's second young master. My, you have such manners. Xie Tianyang didn't care, and Jian Suifeng had to make amends. Forgive him. The second young master, Tianyang, is but a haughty child that I have failed to educate. Please overlook this. It's all right. Young Master Xie must be an impulsive man. I would like to befriend many such people. Huangpu Qingyun walked to Xie Tianyang and rested his hand on his shoulder. Second young master. Jian Suifeng was panicking. Huangpu Qingyun gave a reassuring glance, then smiled brightly at Xie Tianyang, although his tone was frosty. I like straightforward people like young Master Xie the most. I would have grown tired if all I saw were fawning types, ha ha ha. The moment Huangpu Qingyun's hand touched Xie Tianyang's shoulder, he felt an overwhelming pain spread through his body. He could not move, only managing to gnash his teeth from pain and stand straight as an arrow. Pleased with the lesson, Huangpu Qingyun let go and laughed as he left with a group of fawners behind him. Jian Suifeng sighed. Tianyang, why do you act like this? I told you that Regent Estate's men are proficient in grasping the hearts of the people. Anyone who disobeys them suffers in the end. Eighth Elder, I now understand Ninger's feelings at that time. I never knew the Sword Marquis Abode would see this day. Sweat was dripping down Xie Tianyang's face. I will remember this, Huangpu Qingyun. The day will come when I will pay in kind. Jian Suifeng shook his head. For thousands of years, Regent Estate stood atop the 7 houses. Even if you are unwilling, all you can do is bear it. While this scene played out, none of them noticed Zhuo Fan standing in a corner, watching closely. His eyes were cold and his fists were clenched. Song Yu, what's wrong? Your face is scary. Xiao Dandan asked. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Nothing. What will you do if your sisters are picked on? She watched him, amazed. Hearing a mild tone from him for the first time. Depends on who it is. I will take some of my sisters to deal with normal people, or tell my master if it involves the 7 houses. Humph, what will be the point of that? Zhuo Fan squinted as he showed naked killing intent. I, on the other hand, will crush anyone to dust for picking on my brother. His icy tone left Xiao Dandan shivering. She looked as if she didn't recognize him. Chapter 114 Hints of Ambition. Chapter 114 Hints of Ambition. Drifting Flowers Edifice's guest hall was packed with delicacies and food for a feast. Huangpu Qingyun arrived with a crowd of retainers and sat in the seat of honor. It was the seat reserved for the leader. His action implied crass and open disrespect for Drifting Flowers Edifice. It could be even deemed as provocation, however. People found Huangpu Qingyun's act normal, treating him like an emperor. Qingcheng didn't mind at all. Now that he sat there, it wouldn't be long before he would help them. Elders, please take a seat. Don't be shy. Huangpu Qingyun acted as the host and gestured to the 4 profound heaven experts carrying his sedan as they sat along with the guests. There seemed to be one table empty. Huangpu Qingyun asked the obvious. Why is there an empty table? Was the table count wrong and the servers left it as so? Clear of his intention, Vicious Pill King snickered evilly. Second young master, it belongs to Sword Marquis Abode. He must be running late with important matters. If it is irksome, second young master, we might as well remove it. Everyone watched him coldly. Vicious Pill King was simply adding insult to injury. Everyone in the hall saw Huangpu Qingyun attack Xie Tianyang from getting on his bad side. It was obvious that Xie Tianyang was now taking care of his wound and did not come. They all guessed that this second young master was still irritated and brought up this topic. It is fine if you don't want to irk the second young master, but as a man from the 7 houses, must you go so far to pour oil over the fire? and present the chance to shame Sword Marquis' abode? And Huangpu Qingyun wasn't one to miss it. Elder Yen is right. The empty table is bothersome. Remove it from sight. Second young master, Sword Marquis' abode is one of the 7 houses. Even absent, their table should remain. Sir's conduct of disgracing them might earn Sword Marquis' abode's displeasure. Long Zhuo stood up, no longer having the patience to sit by and watch vicious Pill King squinted. And? You think the Sword Marquis' abode would start a war over a table? This is not a matter of boldness, but the 7 houses' sanctity. The 7 noble houses shouldn't hold each other in such contempt. Humph, nice speech. Then let me ask you, Elder Zhuo, in whose domain again did my elders get killed? This time, it was Hell Valley's 5th elder who laughed coldly, he. I have no problems with anyone if no one gives me problems. Hell Valley dug its own grave. You got yourself to blame for that. What did you say, you blind old dog? 5th elder snapped and slapped the table. Long Zhuo squinted, staring back without fear. The feast had become a ticking time bomb ready to explode. They would have long had traded blows if not for this place being Drifting Flowers Edifice. People, please calm down. This is neither Veiled Dragon Pavilion nor Hell Valley. It is not a stage for you to settle your grudges. Lin Zetian wiped his sweat as he urged, if not for Drifting Flowers Edifice, then for the 2nd younger master. Restrain yourselves. The 2 turned their attention to Huangpu Qingyun. He was smiling slightly, but his eyes were anything but pleased, as if to remind them this was his welcoming feast. You dare cause trouble at my feast? The 2 muttered and cupped their hands towards him before sitting back down. Huangpu Qingyun laughed. That's better. The 7 houses are one big happy family. There's no need to argue over a table. Moreover, this is Drifting Flowers Edifice, and it is their decision if the table stays or not. Huangpu Qingyun turned his stare to Qingcheng, who nodded. Sword Marquis' abode is Drifting Flowers Edifice's guest and should have a table. Frowning slightly, Huangpu Qingyun's eyes flashed with disappointment, but laughed nonetheless. All will be done as Qingcheng said. This is your domain after all. Thank you, Qingyun. Qingcheng nodded curtly, not detecting Huangpu Qingyun's change in expression. Meanwhile, the vicious Pill King had an evil smile at her expense. Humph, dumb broad. You have no clue of the 2nd young master's intention. Drifting Flowers Edifice deserves what's coming to it. Then the table will stay, he declared. But when Huangpu Qingyun saw 2 figures passing by, he smirked. However, it's only an empty table. The 2 outside, how about you come join me for a drink? Zhuofan and Xiao Dandan were about to go to their rooms when they heard his shout. Xiao Dandan was distraught over what to do and looked at Zhuofan since the guest hall was filled with elders. This was something the cherished disciple of Peony Overseer had never participated in. Then, she secretly laughed at her as she took a look at Zhuofan. If she, a Drifting Flowers Edifice disciple, panicked, what about him, who was a 3rd-rate clan's young master? Meanwhile, Zhuofan was completely opposite. He was cool as a cucumber, taking her hand as he walked with a steady gait. Does this man fear no one? Not her master, not her senior aunt, not even Regent Estate's 2nd young master, Huangpu Qingyun. In a blink, Xiao Dandan was charmed as she looked at Zhuofan. She didn't seem to wake up from her charmed state even when they were standing in the middle of the guest hall. Her love-struck gaze was there, open for all to see. 2 sudden killing glares landed on the 2. Xiao Dandan shuddered and found one to be from Mary Woods' Lin Tianyu seated next to Lin Zetian, the other from Yen Fu sitting next to vicious Pill King. Their lips moved yet no words came out. But the word they mimicked was the same. Slut. They would have long shouted curses if it were not for Huangpu Qingyun's presence. Sizing the couple up, Huangpu Qingyun laughed. What a perfect match. Could you introduce yourselves? I am Xiao Dandan from Peony Edifice. Greetings, 2nd young master. Xiao Dandan was tense in her greeting. Zhuofan raised an eyelid and stated, Sun Yu from the Song clan, a third-rate clan of Nitrain City. Third-rate? Huangpu Qingyun raised an eyebrow. Such a rare occurrence for a third-rate clan young master to become Drifting Flowers Edifice's son-in-law. People, please sit there. The hell, son-in-law? When have I become Drifting Flowers Edifice's son-in-law? Zhuofan was in deep thought to only be jerked awake by Xiao Dandan, who had reddened cheeks. Qingcheng stood at once. Qingyun, you can't. That is Sword Marquis Abode's table. It is not for juniors. Yes, second young master, they do not qualify to sit there. Peony Overseer stood as well, paid her respect to Huangpu Qingyun, then berated the two. What are you two standing around for? Leave. Huangpu Qingyun waved his hand, his face became gloomy. Qingcheng, I agreed to not take Sword Marquis Abode's table, but now I can't even have two guests? You are slighting me. Qingcheng stammered. She watched Huangpu Qingyun's cold face and realized she no longer knew him. Zhuofan understood at once. If a third-rate clan young master and Drifting Flowers Edifice's disciple took that table, it would bring utter humiliation to Sword Marquis Abode. Huangpu Qingyun was doing it on purpose, differentiating between those who fawned over him and those who disregarded him. The problem revolved around a mere table, but it was an allusion to a question of obedience. Looks like Regent Estates people are a cut above the 6 houses, and so is their appetite. They want to unify the 7 houses. I need to move fast and secure some elders for the Luo clan. When the 7 houses unite, the Tianyu Empire will be plunged into chaos. Zhuofan didn't wait for their argument to finish as he already sat at the table. The people were stunned. What gall the brat has! This will be a shame for Sword Marquis Abode. Kid, you better be careful where you sit, lest you invite death. Long Zhu warned him with a cold eye. Zhuofan watched him calmly. Grandpa Zhu, be careful to not have your clan ruined with what you say. The people were twitching. He doesn't have just gall, he's mad. He even threatened Veiled Dragon Pavilions. Long Zhu. Only Huangpu Qingyun watched Zhuofan with admiration besides shock. He could now see how a third-rate clan young master became Drifting Flowers Edifice's son-in-law. Long Zhu's eyes shivered from emotion and shock. After a long time, he cupped his hands in gratitude. Thank you, young master, for reminding me. Then sat quietly. This caused an even bigger shock. Not only was Huangpu Qingyun and his experts startled, even Long Jie and Long Kuei next to Long Zhuo were perplexed. The Grand Elder Zhuo of Veiled Dragon Pavilion was cowed by a nameless brat. How is this possible? But no one noticed. Long Zhuo was moved to tears. His soul-devouring crow was also flapping its wings in excitement. Chapter 115 Isolated. Chapter 115 Isolated. Watching the soul-devouring crow's jubilation, Zhuofan perked the corner of his mouth, knowing that Long Zhuo recognized him. After all, he used to address Long Zhuo with Grandpa Zhuo the first time they met. Furthermore, unlike those that addressed him as Grandpa Zhuo, Zhuofan's haughty tone made it undoubtedly clear to Long Zhuo as to who he was. None of the people there understood what happened. Their eyes darting from one to another in hesitation. A third-rate clan kid dared speak nonsense to a Veiled Dragon Pavilion's elder. Odd. The elder in question not only did not rebuke but looked relaxed. Odder on top of that, there seemed to be some underlying meaning in it, which was baffling to them. This cast many doubts upon the guests. But before they could pry, a sneer resounded. Humph, Drifting Flowers Edifice is so thoughtful to let some pipsqueak have a table. To everyone's shock, Xie Tianyang had been standing at the entrance, unbeknown to them. Meanwhile, Jian Suifeng's face had turned ashen. The exclusion of Sword Marquis Abode from the 7 houses feast was utter humiliation. Qingcheng cried, urging Zhuofan, "Who told you to sit? Leave at once." "Qingcheng, did you forget? It was I who invited them." Huangpu Qingyun smiled at her, but his deeper meaning pricked at Sword Marquis Abode. Isn't it a waste to have an empty table? I have welcomed the 2 disciples to make better use of it. It is not a place for a dog to sit in after all. Humph, since the second young master does not put Sword Marquis's abode in his eyes, we shall be taking our leave then. Farewell. Xie Tianyang waved his sleeve and left this time. Jian Suifeng didn't stop him, going after him with a stern face. There was no compromise when it came to the matter of Sword Marquis's abode's dignity, even if it meant offending the other 6 houses. Qingcheng became anxious. It was Huangpu Qingyun who did this, but Drifting Flowers' Edifice was the host. With Xie Tianyang returning humiliated, wouldn't Sword Marquis's abode put all the blame on Drifting Flowers' Edifice? In this moment of crisis, Drifting Flowers' Edifice should be making friends, not offending others left and right. Young Master Xie, please wait. This is the fault of our Drifting Flowers' Edifice, please forgive me. I will be arranging a table shortly to apologize. Qingcheng cried in panic. Xie Tianyang paused and turned. Qingcheng was willing to lower herself and apologize. This was enough for Sword Marquis's abode to keep their dignity. It wouldn't be proper to be obstinate, however. Noticing Huangpu Qingyun's mocking grin, Xie Tianyang's anger flared and spoke coldly. Edifice Lord Chu, since you have the powerful Regent estate to lean on, you needn't degrade yourself. I am unfortunate to say that the small and meager Sword Marquis's abode cannot accept your apology. Xie Tianyang left this time for good. Qingcheng sighed. How could she not get his meaning? Drifting Flowers' Edifice chose to rely on Regent estate in their hour of most desperate need. This in turn alienated the other houses. She didn't know if this was the right path, but she began to feel that Drifting Flowers' Edifice was becoming more and more isolated. Even their long-time friend, Long Zhuo, could only sigh at this. If she couldn't even preserve the dignity of her guests, what's to have them return a second time? Huangpu Qingyun was immensely pleased and showed it in his smile. His eyes drifted to Vicious Pill King, who nodded and showed a crafty glint. Zhuo Fan took it all in and cried inside, "Damn it! This is Huangpu Qingyun's plan. To isolate Drifting Flowers' Edifice." When Drifting Flowers' Edifice was gone, the next to follow would be Sword Marquis's abode and Veiled Dragon Pavilion, who refused to acknowledge their might. And when the 7 houses were under one banner, the Luo clan would fall. Zhuo Fan squinted his eyes as he yelled, "Brother Xie, there are more seats here. If you do not mind, let's squeeze together and join the feast?" "Humph, an insignificant noisy brat dares call me brother? Are you freakin' worthy of it? Sitting next to you would throw the 7 houses' honor down the drain." Xie Tianyang snorted inside as he clenched his teeth. This rotten Drifting Flowers' Edifice has gone too far. Since when can a third-rate clan kid yell at me? Xie Tianyang didn't even turn around, so Zhuo Fan scratched his nose as he shouted, "Coward, are you that scared of sitting next to me?" The fierce tone rang in everyone's ears. Everyone was dazed, even Huangpu Qingyun. They were too out of it to even react. Blast it! This punk is a madman among lunatics. The nerve of this brat! He first threatened Elder Zhuo and now he was calling Sword Marquis's abode's young master a coward? Did he yearn for death that much? Elder Zhuo didn't retaliate because of seniority. With his power, striking against a junior in front of everyone would be too shameful, while Xie Tianyang was a rash youth. You think he'd let you off after this public humiliation? The Drifting Flowers' Edifice won't say anything even if you do end up dead. Iris Overseer held her forehead, Peony Overseer sighed. Qingcheng gnashed her teeth with tightened fists. She was itching to tear him to pieces. This rotten brat. Here he goes again thinking with his brawn. Vicious Pill King's disciple and Mary Wood's disciple were enjoying the show with cold smiles. Edifice Lord Chu, this is too much even if you rely on Regent estate. Do you want to slight Sword Marquis's abode so much? Jian Suifeng snorted in anger as his body exudes power. Qingcheng rushed to defuse the misunderstanding. Please calm down, 8th Elder. This is a misunderstanding. This child speaks without thinking. I will deal with this personally. Qingcheng glared at Zhuofan and berated. Song Yu, what are you waiting for? Apologize. A small smile played on Zhuofan's lips as he looked at Xie Tianyang's back shivering. Xie Tianyang turned around jerkily, eyeing Zhuofan with rage, but also shock. He then strode before Zhuofan. Young Master Xie, please, he is but a child, please don't lower yourself to his level. Qingcheng was nervous, yet Yuan Qi gathered in her palms. She would have no choice but to interfere if Xie Tianyang moved in for the kill. Xiao Dandan jumped in front of Zhuofan as she nervously said, Young Master Xie, he is my fiancé, one of Drifting Flowers' Edifice. His error will be dealt with by Drifting Flowers' Edifice. Please don't let anger control you. Ignoring her, Xie Tianyang only calmly walked to Zhuofan's table. However, outside of everyone's expectation, the two didn't jump at each other's throat. Xie Tianyang just landed his butt on the chair next to Zhuofan and poured himself a drink before downing the glass. Then, stared at Zhuofan's face, not fully convinced as he laughed. Ha ha ha, good wine. Of course. Drifting Flowers' Edifice's wine is made by the young and charming ladies. Since you're here, brother, let's have drinks all round. Zhuofan filled his cup and Xie Tianyang nodded, sitting there as if nothing happened. Everyone's eyes were bulging out of their sockets. Even Jian Suifeng was dumbstruck. Xie Tianyang's reckless temper flared, even before the likes of Huangpu Qingyun from the Regent estate. Why was he casually drinking wine with a man who just cursed him? He didn't understand, the others even more so. Having the show cut short, the others were stunned. Qingcheng was also dumbfounded, her hands relaxing. She couldn't understand what trick Zhuofan pulled to calm Sword Marquis Abode's young master's anger. Xie Tianyang, didn't you say sitting at that table is beneath you? Huangpu Qingyun was disappointed as he spoke coldly. Laughing, Xie Tianyang waved off his reproach. I do, but not with a brother who I appreciate. Xie Tianyang and Zhuofan clinked glasses just like drinking buddies. Jian Suifeng awkwardly sat next to Xie Tianyang, not quite able to wrap his head around his young master. Tianyang, you. Ha ha ha, eighth elder, sit. Sharing a table with this brother will not disgrace Sword Marquis' abode in the slightest. Xie Tianyang waved his hand, pulling Jian Suifeng to sit. Jian Suifeng watched Zhuofan, befuddled. Seeing peace restored, Qingcheng relaxed also. Her pretty eyes landed on Zhuofan with gratitude. Zhuofan raised a glass in her honor and lifted an eyebrow. Qingcheng glared at him, but they held no anger. It was the same as when a big sis smacked her little brother over the head, a love tap. Qingcheng. Huangpu Qingyun's eye grew cold, severely irked by Zhuofan's action of diffusing the conflict between Drifting Flowers' Edifice and Sword Marquis' abode. However, Qingcheng did not notice. So, she urged, Qingyun, it was hard to gather all the 7 houses before the 100-pill meeting, as you can see. So, don't be so hard on young Master Xie. Ha ha ha, how could I? I came because of you after all. His eyes flashing, Huangpu Qingyun spoke, let's begin. Now that all houses are here, let us settle the matter between Drifting Flowers' Edifice and Pill King Hall. Qingcheng was happy. With Regent Estate standing here, that old dog will have to give up the antidote. What she didn't know, however, was that vicious Pill King was also anticipating this. Chapter 116, Ruthless Betrayal. Chapter 116, Ruthless Betrayal. P4553R. Clap. At the sharp clap, everyone turned to Qingcheng. She smiled and eyed the vicious Pill King. On this occasion, with all 7 houses gathered here, I would like everyone to bear witness to one matter of mine. She stared vicious Pill King down with a cold gaze. Yen Song, it is time to end our grudges today. Ha ha ha, what grudges do you speak of? I do not understand. Have I perhaps turned up uninvited? Vicious Pill King stroked his beard, squinting. Qingcheng continued, Yen Song, stop faking it. The elders of the 7 houses are here, and so is Regent Estate's second young master. You won't leave this place until you give up the Rainbow Cloud Palm's antidote. Iris Overseer and Peony Overseer stood up also, ready to strike at a moment's notice. The others kept silent, watching the events unfold. They knew of this grudge between them for a long time. This time, however, Drifting Flowers Edifice invited Regent Estate to mediate and press down on Pill King Hall. Vicious Pill King would have no choice but to comply in his presence, yet, just when the second young master ought to speak, he remained unusually quiet. The people ignored Qingcheng and Vicious Pill King, turning their gazes to Qingcheng because they all knew he was the one who had the final say, who was right and who was wrong, who failed and who won. All rested on this man's shoulders. Huangpu Qingyun smiled towards Vicious Pill King. Ha ha ha. Elder Yen, if you truly poison Drifting Flowers Edifice's disciples, there is no harm in providing the antidote and keep it cordial. He, second young master is right. Snickering, Vicious Pill King cupped his hands at Huangpu Qingyun, but his sinister eyes stared right at Qingcheng. I have indeed hurt your overseers, but I am unable to provide the antidote. Yen Song, the nerve of you! You won't even listen to the Regent Estate? Do I have to bother His Majesty for you to drop this matter? Qingcheng shouted, but Huangpu Qingyun lightly waved it off. His Highness is terribly occupied and has no time to mind us, 7 houses. Even after what happened in Windgaze City between Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Hell Valley, His Highness rebuked them both. Not only they, but even the other houses were given a warning. Windgaze City has now become a restricted area for us. When Huangpu Qingyun pointed this out, Long Zhuo and Hell Valley's 5th elder started glaring at each other. Zhuo Fan sneered inside, knowing where this was going. For the Regent Estate to unify the 7 houses, they must have all of the houses' affairs under their control. Wouldn't it become a mere figurehead, as the leader of the 7 houses, if the other houses turned to the Emperor for mediation? Humph, they move quite quickly when it comes to grabbing power. So this is the true ambition of Regent Estate. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed coldly. Qingcheng took a deep breath to calm her anger. Qingyun, you are right, but this old dog. Leave it to me. Huangpu Qingyun held his hand in interruption and spoke to Vicious Pill King. Elder Yen, taking your current stance is tantamount to slighting Regent Estate. Don't you see me sitting here? Ha ha ha, the second young master misunderstands. The truth is, I cannot provide the antidote. Vicious Pill King cupped his hands and smiled. But shouldn't what a certain thief stole be returned first? What do you mean? Huangpu Qingyun raised an eyebrow, his voice odd grinning. Vicious Pill King looked at Qingcheng in askance, speaking with a sly smile. Edifice Lord Chu, I'm sure you haven't forgotten of that devil Qingtian. Shivering, tears welled in Qingcheng as she clenched her fists. Bottomless rage and overflowing killing intent surged. The people were shocked, having witnessed Qingcheng so out of control for the first time. Sneering, Vicious Pill King added, Drifting Flowers Edifice had once sent that devil, Qingtian, to become my disciple. I found him smart and imparted some of my teachings. In the end, he stole Rainbow Cloud Palm's antidote formula. His strength was lacking when refining it and died, while also poisoning many overseers in the process. How can this be my fault? Yeah, he was my senior brother, meant to inherit the master's legacy. But he was driven by delusions of grandeur and betrayed us despite our good relations. He got his just deserts when he thought too highly of himself. He was blind to believe he could refine the antidote, only to fail. Yen Fu was mocking them now. The only thing I admire about my senior brother is his talent in alchemy. As for his moral character, he was too arrogant, repaying gratitude with enmity and hurting Drifting Flowers Edifice. It can be said he was impudent. Shut up! Qingcheng's anger flared and her eyes reddened as she watched the evil pair. The others jerked in fright, throwing a disdainful gaze at her. Vicious Pill King snorted, second young master, if this happened in Regent Estate, would you give your spy the antidote? You're right. Huangpu Qingyun nodded. Everyone's eyes were on him in a split second. It was Drifting Flowers Edifice who asked for him, so what was he doing sticking up for Qingcheng Hall? Only Zhuo knew this was coming, calmly tasting the fine wine. Second young master, there is a reason behind this matter. At that time, Qingcheng Hall attacked our Edifice Lord. Iris Overseer hurried to explain, but vicious Qingcheng cut her off. Humph, there are plenty of arguments among the 7 houses, but does this garner sending a spy to another house? Going by your words, won't that make Hell Valley filled with Veiled Dragon Pavilion's people? And Veiled Dragon Pavilion teeming with Hell Valley's spies as well? Elders began nodding at this. In the case of small arguments, they were resolved openly. Sending spies was too demeaning and shameful for the 7 houses' prestige. Iris Overseer was flustered while Qingcheng was almost lost in her rage. Her eyes bore hatred towards Yen Song, wanting to eat him alive. That's enough. Since I and the house's elders are here, I will be the judge and you witnesses in dissolving this grievance. Huangpu Qingyun's shout drowned the 2 sides bickering. Everyone nodded. Huangpu Qingyun turned to the vicious Qingcheng, to which Yen Song cupped his hands. I leave everything in the second young master's hands. Turning to Qingcheng, she let out a ragged breath and nodded. Huangpu Qingyun came at her request and believed he would side with Drifting Flowers Edifice. Huangpu Qingyun's eyes flashed pleased. With both sides in agreement, then I will state my verdict. Do not object it, or it will mean a challenge to Regent Estate. Yes. Qingcheng and vicious Qingcheng nodded. Good. Elder Yen, you are to give the Rainbow Cloud Palm's antidote to the Drifting Flowers Edifice. Huangpu Qingyun shouted, and Qingcheng was happy, but Huangpu Qingyun followed up on a cold tone. However, Drifting Flowers Edifice was the first in the wrong. To be fair, Elder Yen may choose any one item from Drifting Flowers Edifice as compensation. This caused a widespread shock. Everyone knew what Yen Song coveted the most. Drifting Flowers Edifice refused to bargain this treasure with him. Or they would have long have traded it. Huangpu Qingyun's verdict sounded fair, but it leaned towards Yen Song in a blink. They all understood, flickering their eyes from one to another. Qingcheng was even more shocked. She noticed Yen Song's cunning smile, and came to realize it was a trap all along. They planned this from the start. Second young master's verdict is fair. I wholly agree. Vicious Qingcheng laughed. Then I won't be shy and choose Bodhi root. Impossible. Qingcheng snorted. The Drifting Flowers Edifice's sacred treasure won't be yours. Qingcheng, you are the one who asked me to mediate. I have given my verdict and now you refuse? Are you mocking me? Huangpu Qingyun barked. Everyone knew Huangpu Qingyun didn't come to help Qingcheng, but the Qingcheng Hall with this excuse. Regent Estate drove itself between Qingcheng Hall and Drifting Flowers Edifice. If Drifting Flowers Edifice didn't hand over Bodhi root, they would have to face not only Qingcheng Hall, but the dreaded and mighty Regent Estate, the strongest of the 7 houses. If Regent Estate moved, no other house dared to help Drifting Flowers Edifice. Before Drifting Flowers Edifice could drive out the vicious wolf, they brought in a tiger. There was no going back now. Qingcheng glared at Huangpu Qingyun with tears in her eyes. She never thought possible the one she rested her last hope on, her childhood sweetheart, would ruthlessly betray her. Iris Overseer and Peony Overseer were enraged, glaring at him with bitter hatred. The one they hated the most was now Huangpu Qingyun, the betrayer. As if unable to look his former sweetheart in the eyes, Huangpu Qingyun turned his head and sighed. Qingcheng, don't be so obstinate. This is all for Drifting Flowers Edifice's sake. Bullshit. What would be left of Drifting Flowers Edifice if the Bodhi root is gone? Peony Overseer's temper flared and cursed him. How will you call yourself Drifting Flowers Edifice if everyone is dead? Huangpu Qingyun snorted. We agreed before to not contest my verdict. Accept it or suffer the wrath of Regent Estate. Peony Overseer turned mute. Qingcheng and Iris Overseer were falling in despair however. A sneer echoed around. Young Master Huangpu, if my ears didn't fail me, you said you came to mediate and let the elders bear witness. Now that you have given your verdict, isn't it the elders' turn to judge its fairness? This shocked everyone, turning to find the brazen man who dared contest Regent estate. Chapter 117 Lifeline. Chapter 117 Lifeline. The people saw Zhuo casually holding his glass as he nursed his wine. He didn't look afraid at all, having just contested against Huangpu Qingyun Humph. You dare interrupt the matter between Drifting Flowers Edifice and Pill King Hall? Huangpu Qingyun glared. Zhuo shook his head and embraced Xiao Dandan. Lifting a taunting eyebrow at Huangpu Qingyun, I am now part of Drifting Flowers Edifice and have the right to speak for it. What goddamn right do you have for spouting bullshit? Impudent! Huangpu Qingyun's fury resulted in unleashing his power, launching a sudden palm attack. Not even Zhuo would dare take a palm backed by a second layer of profound heaven cultivator however. He didn't look the slightest bit worried. He knew someone would save him. A white silk ribbon seized the palm. He turned to see the cold Qingcheng staring back. Qingcheng, what's the meaning of this? Are you violating the agreement? Huangpu Qingyun squinted. Qingcheng spat through gnashed teeth. Song Yu's words are correct. Second young master has given his verdict and now it is the elders' turn to judge its fairness. I am sure the great second young master is a man of his word. After muttering to himself, Huangpu Qingyun snorted in anger. Fine, then let the elders decide. His power flashed and the white silk ribbon on his hand was torn to shreds as he returned to his seat. His cold eyes gleamed over the crowd. Tell me, is my verdict right or wrong? The hearts of everyone seized. They shook their heads then glared at Zhuo. Does a Drifting Flowers Edifice's son-in-law have to go this far for them? Now you threw the ball in our court. Won't uttering a single word earn Regent Estate's rage? Mulling for a moment, Hell Valley's fifth elder stood up laughing. Ha ha ha, second young master's verdict was indeed fair. I have no objection. Fifth elder is wise. Second young master, I second him. Vicious Pill King smiled at Huangpu Qingyun after seeing Peony Overseer's riveting gaze, then Huangpu Qingyun's. Mary Wood's Lin Zetian cupped his hands. I accept second young master's verdict wholly. Huangpu Qingyun nodded pleased and Peony Overseer was prepped to blow. No man is worthy. They speak sweet nothings and then abandon you in your hour of need. You damn two-faced. I will never forget this, Lin Zetian. Peony Overseer's eyes burned with towering flames of rage, her breath ragged in a desperate attempt to hold it in. Meanwhile, Lin Zetian simply avoided her gaze. As matters stand, 3 of the 7 houses approved of Huangpu Qingyun's verdict. Only one more was needed to set it in stone. Drifting Flowers Edifice was fully against it, but even they had no choice in the matter. Pushed against the wall, none of the elders desired to fall alongside Drifting Flowers Edifice and offend Regent Estate. Huangpu Qingyun had a pleased smile when he saw Qingcheng's sour face. He turned to Long Zhuo. Next, Veiled Dragon Pavilion's elder Zhuo. State your stance. Taking a deep breath, Long Zhuo thought it over. He saw Qingcheng's hopeful gaze and Huangpu Qingyun's towering arrogance. Sighing, he shook his head. Second young master, I also believe you are Qingcheng was ashen and Huangpu Qingyun was beaming from happiness. Then Zhuo pursed his lips, casually saying, Grandpa Zhuo, choose your words wisely. The hell? This punk is threatening Elder Zhuo again? Zhuofan's tone was flat, but all knew its meaning. What shocked the people present was his balls to disrespect Long Zhuo again and again. He may be a junior to Long Zhuo, but doing it a second time was testing Veiled Dragon Pavilion's patience. If Long Zhuo didn't strike, it would be an affront to their reputation. Long Zhuo, you've been berated once again by a mere junior yet still do not retaliate. You have quite the mild temper, it seems. But taking their precious treasure from them is the same as cutting off their future. It is no different than destroying them. Long Zhuo cupped his hand and shouted, though his head was soaked in sweat. His words smacked Regent Estate in the face. His stance would have a great impact on the way Regent Estate would treat Veiled Dragon Pavilion in the future, but he had more faith in Zhuofan. He saw it with his own eyes in Windgaze City. Each of Zhuofan's decisions was always correct. Shock beyond belief. No one saw this coming. This wasn't just siding with Drifting Flowers Edifice, it was going against Regent Estate. Qingcheng and the other two overseers offered their thanks again and again. Long Zhuo gave a bitter smile as he slumped in his chair. He had no idea if this would promise blessings or spell doom. Huangpu Qingyun disregarded Long Zhuo and stared at Zhuofan. He made the Grand Elder Zhuo change his decision. Just who the hell was he? Indeed, Huangpu Qingyun discovered Long Zhuo had already made up his mind of forsaking Drifting Flowers Edifice. However, those few words from Zhuofan set Veiled Dragon Pavilion against Regent Estate. Who in God's name is he? He has greater sway than even me? In fact, he wasn't the only one who noticed. Everyone else there realized this but chose to abstain from revealing it. Yet their eyes never left Zhuofan. Chuckling inside, Zhuofan kept drinking with Xie Tianyang like best buds. What of Sword Marquis' abode? What is your opinion? Huangpu Qingyun turned his cold eyes to Jian Suifeng. Xie Tianyang however patted Jian Suifeng before he could rise and laughed. Eighth Elder, let me handle this. Tianyang, this concerns the future of Sword Marquis' abode. You must. I know. Xie Tianyang waved his warning off, sneering at Huangpu Qingyun with a slanted look, then toasted with Zhuofan again. Kid, I find you really familiar. Are you really a son-in-law to Drifting Flowers Edifice? Yep. Rolling his eyes, Zhuofan didn't know what he was going for and nodded. He. Then prove it by kissing your wife. Xie Tianyang laughed as he pointed at Xiao Dandan. She went beet red in a flash. Her heart raced, going a mile a minute, and stole glances at Zhuofan. The latter glared at Xie Tianyang and cursed softly. What are you playing at, punk? Wanna fight? Xie Tianyang just stated, hey now, I know you want my favor. So do what I say or I don't know which side to choose. A what? This made everyone hold their breath. Jian Suifeng was close to exploding. In this critical moment, when one word could decide the future of their house, he was playing around. Tianyang. Jian Suifeng shouted, Eighth Elder, believe me. I know what I'm doing. Xie Tianyang showed a reassuring glance. Jian Suifeng had never before seen him look so serious. He nodded in the end, and chose to believe this disciple. He won't be damning the house over a game, right? Fine, Xie Tianyang. Zhuofan clenched his fists and was itching to wipe that grin off Xie Tianyang's face with his fists. But he chose to endure, glaring at him. I will obey your order. Zhuofan embraced Xiao Dandan and French kissed the girl in front of the whole crowd. Xiao Dandan's mind went blank. When he saw Xie Tianyang's ridiculously pleased grin, Zhuofan couldn't help but curse. Pervert, what are you happy about? If you want a woman, go find your own. Ha, I already have, you know. Once I tell her, she will hate you forever. Xie Tianyang laughed and slapped the table in joy. Everyone watched Sword Marquis' abode's young master in a daze. They didn't know what he was saying, but one thing was certain. The two knew each other meanwhile. Only Zhuofan knew the she he was referring to was Xuanning. Shaking his head, Zhuofan sighed. Make your choice then. Alright, brother. I choose you. Xie Tianyang could barely hold his glee as he turned to Huangpu Qingyun and taunted with his eyebrows. Second young master, I absolutely positively refute your so-called fairness. That is why Sword Marquis' abode believes your verdict is wrong. Huangpu Qingyun clenched his fists in rage. His eyes bored through Xie Tianyang. You have gall. Just you wait. Xie Tianyang lifted his head in confidence, ready to fight back with this. The verdict was a tie. Qingcheng was overjoyed and expressed her thanks to Xie Tianyang. She then said to Huangpu Qingyun, since the second young master's verdict could not gain the 7 houses' elders' approval, it is vetoed. Who said it is? Have you forgotten about us, the Regent estate? Huangpu Qingyun snorted, I have never heard of giving a verdict and vote also. Regent estate's vote is invalid from the start. Zhuo sneered, gnashing his teeth. Huangpu Qingyun glared at him. If he had killed Zhuo when he had the chance, Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Sword Marquise Abode would have abstained, and Drifting Flowers Edifice would have easily fallen. Damn punk! I will kill you myself. Huangpu Qingyun glared murderously at Zhuo. Zhuo noticed and smiled. If the second young master is unsatisfied with this conclusion, I have a proposition. Elder Yen gives the antidote and he is free to pick anything from Drifting Flowers Edifice, besides Bodhi root. No. Only Bodhi root matters to me. Vicious Pill King brushed his sleeve in anger. Zhuo perked the corner of his mouth, as if he was expecting this. That may not be off the table as you might think. Just that you can't have it so easily. It will all depend on you. What are you getting at? Vicious Pill King asked. Simple. The 100-pill meeting is about to start and the prize shall be the Bodhi root. The winner will have all rights to claim it. Alright. Let's see if anyone can contest my alchemy skill. Ha ha ha, Vicious Pill King cackled. Thinking he had it in the bag. Huangpu Qingyun muttered for a while, then agreed. While Qingcheng and the rest were filled with worry. Who could beat Vicious Pill King in alchemy? It seemed like a lifeline for Drifting Flowers Edifice, but it didn't seem to make much of a difference than before. Chapter 118, Joint Plan. Chapter 118, Joint Plan. With both sides coming to an accord, the intricate feast had reached its end. What people found strange was Pill King Hall and Regent Estate converting about conditions, not with Drifting Flowers Edifice's lord, but Zhuo, the Drifting Flowers Edifice's son-in-law. In a land where women ruled, their fate was ultimately in the hands of a man. This was one irony some people couldn't get enough of, but the real irony was that Zhuo was a fake son-in-law, only known by the overseers. And this man was the one who spoke for the Drifting Flowers Edifice. Peony Overseer and Iris Overseer exchanged a glance, their hearts bitter. As this was all said and done, any regret now would be wasted breath. Besides the fact the elders of the 7 houses were witnessing this, who'd be able to change it now that Pill King Hall and Regent Estate grasped such a huge advantage? They could only blame themselves for trusting Regent Estate. They gave Huangpu Qingyun so many of their treasures to bring him here, only to be closer to losing their very last and most important one when the elders left, taking care of their affairs. Qingcheng called for Huangpu Qingyun, the last man to leave. Wait. Qingcheng's face was frosty, her eyes cold. Huangpu Qingyun paused but didn't turn around. Not far away, Vicious Pill King also paused and looked at the two. Why? Qingcheng said. Huangpu Qingyun's lip moved but started with a sigh. Qingcheng, I have given you a chance, but you didn't take it. Qingcheng frowned. In any case, this is all in your house's interest. And neither of us can change it. If only Drifting Flowers Edifice would have been more behaved, you'd have never come to witness today. Huangpu Qingyun's eyes flashed with regret and strode away with his 4 profound heaven experts. In Qingcheng's moment of loss, Vicious Pill King crept over with a vicious smile. Edifice Lord, you've been wrong in your assumptions this time. The ones who want the Bodhi root isn't Pill King Hall, but Regent Estate. What? Qingcheng was startled. That old bat didn't tell you? Regent Estate had long demanded the Bodhi root from her. Too bad she was so stubborn, not willing to budge an inch. So. Vicious Pill King squinted. Guess it's no harm in telling you this secret at this point. You think I alone am enough to harm that old bat? She had advised 3 generations of your edifice lords, after all, a truly awe-inspiring peak profound heaven expert. A bad feeling began to seize Qingcheng's heart. Ha ha ha, you should have already guessed it. The one to have wounded her to such a state was an expert from Regent estate. Foolish girl, you think your weak link with the second young master is enough to make Regent estate help you? You brought the wolf in with open hands. Vicious Pill King's unrestrained laughter was filled with disdain as he took his leave. Qingcheng shivered and collapsed. Her eyes empty and tears streamed down her cheeks. What have I done? Her empty eyes now held despair. Her lone figure in the grand guest hall struck a pitiful image. Meanwhile, Zhuo and Xiao Dandan left the hall and saw the veiled dragon pavilion with Sword Marquise abode waiting for them in a remote corner with a grin. Zhuo walked straight to them, with Xiao Dandan next to him, of course, eliciting a surprise from him. What are you coming with me for? Go play by yourself. Xiao Dandan pouted. You've done that in front of everyone and now you're so mean. What did I do? Wasn't it just a kiss? It's nothing great, I did it to get Sword Marquise Abode's vote and save your drifting flowers edifice. Zhuo rolled his eyes and warned, don't ever mention this again. There is nothing going on between us. Xiao Dandan was like an obedient child, though in her heart she felt miserable. Yet noticing the two houses watching them closely, she couldn't help but grab Zhuo hand in worry. Song Yu, are they looking for trouble since you insulted them at the feast? It'd be best to leave as soon as possible. Zhuo didn't explain and nod. Correct, but this is a man's job, not for women. Also, the further you are from me, the better. Zhuo wrested his hand from her grip without hesitation and walked forward. Xiao Dandan was sad but worried for his sake. She thought of something and quickly rushed off. Greetings, it's been a long time. Zhuo sported a faint smile, putting on the thunder ring from his storage ring. Sparks traveled across it and Xie Tianyang's reacted in kind. He laughed. I knew it was you. You look so different that I almost didn't recognize you. But calling me a coward made me realize the truth. Xie Tianyang was the first to call Zhuo a coward, and now the roles were reversed. By the way, where's sister-in-law? Xie Tianyang's eyebrows danced on purpose. Zhuo mood turned sour as he waved a fist. Why did you do that anyway? Are you itching for a smackdown? Ha ha ha, it's a joke, a joke. You didn't lose out anyway. Xie Tianyang laughed as he withdrew, still somewhat afraid of Zhuo. By the way, little brother, I wanted to ask. What was this all about? Long Zhuo asked sternly. Don't you realize we all offended the Regent estate? Little brother? Wait, you're Zhuo? Long Kuei cried out. Since Long Zhuo only had one little brother, Zhuo, it was easy to figure it out. Jian Suifeng and Long Jie were also in shock. Now they knew why Long Zhuo and Xie Tianyang sold their face to a kid, to the point they openly defied Regent estate. Both were brothers to Zhuo, holding undying gratitude towards each other. Yeah, brother, what was that all about? Xie Tianyang was also serious. I trust you since you have a good reason, but don't go ahead and sell me out again. We've been through life and death together. Zhuo scratched his nose. You two are the ones I trust the most. I wouldn't have dragged you into this if I had no other choice. Just that you've already been pushed into harm's way, and it's best to plan ahead. The two asked at the same time, What do you mean? Can't you see it? Zhuo eyes flashed. Regent estate intends to unify all 7 houses, and you two are on their kill list. Rather than wait to be killed, it's best to set a boundary and retaliate. What, unify the 7 houses? How do you know that? They all cried. Zhuo slowly shook his head. It's just a guess for now. Huangpu Qingyun displayed his power the instant he saw Xie Tianyang refuse to comply. If we take this arrogant behavior of a disciple into account, then we can draw conclusions at the true schemes cooking in the heads of the Regent estate's minds. On the surface, it looks nothing more than looking to make trouble for Sword Marquise Abode and humiliating it through you. When in fact, he managed to achieve 2 things. weakening Edifice Lord's position, instigating Drifting Flowers Edifice and Sword Marquis Abode against each other, and splitting the people into 3 camps. Those that obey, those that defy, and the opportunists. From how everyone reacted just now, it is safe to assume Hell Valley and Pill King Hall are in support of them. Meanwhile, Drifting Flowers Edifice, Sword Marquis Abode, and Veiled Dragon Pavilion, having reproached him many times, are obviously against them. As for Merry Woods, they are in the opportunist camp. They began to recount the feast in its entirety, and came to the same conclusion. Now they began to see why Huangpu Qingyun was so disgusted and rude over this trivial matter, even towards a house's young master. He wasn't just arrogant, but was devising a way to deal with the houses. They all broke out in cold sweat. If Zhuo Fan was right, the strongest of the 7 houses was going to declare war on them, to root them out and unite the 7 houses under one banner. This is all just a guess of yours. If it isn't true, then we became hostiles with Regent Estate for nothing. Long Kue said sternly after a moment nodding. Zhuo Fan's eyes turned cold, indeed. But don't you all agree it is better to become enemies than to wait for the moment when they come at you and catch you unprepared? It's easy to see the difference in danger. If it was me, I would destroy them all at the slightest sign of disobedience. Shivering, Long Zhuo and Jian Suifeng exchanged a glance and admired him inside a so vicious and decisive, just like a true ruler. Fine, I know of that saying about, guard against those that want to hurt you or whatever. I get the Regent Estate is coveting us, but Drifting Flowers Edifice's sorry state is a different matter. Brother, you made us favor Drifting Flowers Edifice and thus pushed forward Regent Estate's war to us. Xie Tianyang suddenly said. Jian Suifeng gave him a praising glance. This kid is finally thinking for his house. Zhuo Fan disapproved with a sneer. Drifting Flowers Edifice is indeed the weakest of the 7, on the verge of collapse. This is why Regent Estate wants to start with them. Think about it. If they fall, who will Regent Estate turn to next? They all then realized, shocked. Though the Drifting Flowers Edifice was the weakest amongst the 7 houses, they were still part of the 7 houses. If Drifting Flowers Edifice was out of the picture, the next would be them. Sword Marquis Abode and Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Drifting Flowers Edifice is your gate. Once this gate splits open, Regent Estate will be unstoppable in its march to swallow you all. In addition, Drifting Flowers Edifice's existence presents us with Regent Estate's attack target. Take Drifting Flowers Edifice out of the picture, and it will be anyone's guess who the next mark is. They all nodded, with some people's eyes flashing with resolve. Even Long Kue, who always looked for chances to nitpick with him, had to agree. Long Kue now understood how serious this matter was, which involved her house. Then what do you get out of this? Xie Tianyang said. I know you well enough and there's no way you'd get involved without getting something. Least of all, volunteering to help Drifting Flowers Edifice get over this predicament. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with confidence and said, Miss Long Kue, do you remember our 10 years agreement? Rising Luo clan above the 7 houses in 10 years? Long Kue muttered, correct. Zhuo Fan continued with a smile. What I get from all of this is to slow down the Regent Estate's campaign and allow the Luo clan rise in 10 years. When I am done, we will see who will be the true number 1 house in the empire. Chapter 119 Zhuo Fan's Determination. Chapter 119 Zhuo Fan's Determination. What boasting! Jian Suifeng was the first to open his mouth in shock. 10 years to go beyond the 7 houses? There never was such a precedent in the entire Tianyu Empire, let alone rising enough to fight the strongest of the 7 houses. Regent Estate. Zhuo Fan's words were borderline fantasy, but from the looks of the rest, this arrogance was something they were used to. Given enough time, they got used to Zhuo Fan's egomaniac nature. So much so, they became numb to how many surprised he gave them, to some extent besides, compared to those shocking and incredible things he did, boasting would hardly mean anything. In fact, he might actually pull it off. They were skeptical, but also expectant. Looking forward to seeing how far this little freak could go. Furthermore, their interests aligned, for now, AI, to safeguard both of our houses, we have no choice but to work together and protect Drifting Flowers' edifice. It would have been best if we talked about this yesterday now that the two houses are in agreement, with none of us having any legitimate reason to intervene in that contest anymore. Long Zhuo shook his head. Xie Tianyang did the same, complaining, "Punk, making that proposition was a bad move. Whining with alchemy is the same as just giving it to Vicious Pill King. You think I wanted to? How else could I have made them take a step back and give Drifting Flowers' edifice a lifeline?" Rolling his eyes, Zhuofan sneered. "Moreover, you don't need to worry about this. All you have to do is to support Drifting Flowers' edifice from time to time and prevent it from being swallowed." "Does that mean you have a contingency in place?" they all asked, perking the corner of his mouth. Zhuofan spoke with confidence. "It's just alchemy. I will face the Vicious Pill King myself." "What? He is a 7th-grade alchemist, how?" This time they were panicking. A 7th-grade alchemist was considered a peak in Tianyu Empire. Very few people had reached such a level. And Vicious Pill King was the #1 alchemist in Pill King Hall. He was better than even an average 7th-grade alchemist. Possibly the best in the empire was Zhuofan, with his cultivation, at his age, capable of such a feat. Damn it all to hell! What is up with this freak? Alchemy, arrays, he is a master of all. There's hardly anyone in his generation who is his match. How did all of heaven's favor get dumped on him? Xie Tianyang was close to raining curses. He knew Zhuofan's skill in alchemy was abnormal, but not to the extent he reached a 7th-grade alchemist's level. Zhuofan sighed. "Don't look at me like that. I am going to face him, but I too am not certain of success." Zhuofan knew alchemy needed 3 things. Cultivation, skill, and flame. Cultivation allowed prolonged control over the flame. Skill referred to the secret refining skills of some clans. Without a good one, no amount of cultivation would help refine a good pill. And flame determined the degree of ingredient refinement for high-grade ingredients. A common flame was unable to refine it. An alchemist had to look for a beast flame or a natural-born fire. The stronger the flame, the better the refinement. His cultivation left room to refine a 4th-grade pill at best. But with the secret and ancient refining skill from 9 Serenity's secret records, he could go a grade higher regarding flame. He had no clue how strong the azure flame was, but it was strong, no doubt about it. He was confident he should be able to refine a 7th-grade pill. "And if you fail?" Long Zhuo saw Zhuofan silent and was beginning to worry. Zhuofan's eyes flashed with naked killing intent. "Then it will come down to a fight. This is actually for the best. Taking the Bodhi route, the Regent estate will change their targets to me and Drifting Flowers' edifice will gain some breathing room. But you will end up chased by the experts of 3 houses." Long Zhuo's eyes trembled, worried for Zhuofan's safety. A smile leaked on Zhuofan's lips. "Ha ha ha, and? We'll be enemies sooner or later. Messing up their plan earlier is for the best. With me getting their attention, you 3 houses will have no trouble making preparations." Zhuofan's words moved them. He was using his life to buy them time. They were now looking at him in gratitude and admiration. Who would dare brave such dangers when a single mistake would be paid for with his life? "Damn, kid, you're truly bold." Even Jian Suifeng had to admire him. Xie Tianyang slapped his shoulder. He was silent, but his eyes spoke volumes. A burning gaze that seemed to want to melt him. It was a hero's appreciation of another. "Young Master Xie, please do not hurt him." A charming voice was followed by the appearance of a figure in red. It was none other than Peony Overseer Xiao Dandan ran back and pulled the baffled Zhuofan behind the peony overseer. Everyone, Song Yu is as stubborn as a mule and offended you before. Please, for my sake, don't take it out on him. Peony Overseer cupped her hands. They suddenly froze, then laughed. Peony Overseer thought they wanted to get revenge on Zhuofan and rushed over to save him. This made them exchange a glance. It was though they sent out a message through their gaze, and all agreed to play along. Zhuofan was always so cocky that Long Zhuo, a senior, looked for any chance to poke fun at him. Long Zhuo coughed before he snorted in anger. How did Drifting Flowers Edifice get such a rude disciple? I would have long slapped him silly if Peony Overseer hadn't shown up. Uncle Zhuo, please don't take it out on him. Peony Overseer nodded again and again. Long Zhuo was stroking his beard, but his eyebrow danced in amusement at Zhuofan. Zhuofan's heart jumped and knew something was up, and sure enough, Long Zhuo bypassed Peony Overseer and patted his shoulder like a teaching elder. Punk, you got away this time. But you better watch it in the future. Then Long Zhuo slipped away, walking faster than normal, afraid Zhuofan would settle the score. Zhuofan blinked, still out of it. Xie Tianyang, having learned by Long Zhuo's example, slapped his shoulder with a proud smile as he blurted, "Punk, better watch it next time. I won't go so easy again. I am cooler than you, stronger than you. To think you even dared call me brother, hoping you can climb ranks. Ha ha ha." Xie Tianyang was carefree in his speech. If it were any given day, he'd never had the balls to speak to Zhuofan in such a way. Whose fault was it that Zhuofan took on Song Yu's face? Zhuofan clenched his fists and fire ebbed in his eyes. Curses! Since when did I have such god-damned brothers? You were the one acting all familiar with me before, and now you're messing with me? As Zhuofan glared at the two's retreating figures, a charming voice spoke. Hey, what are you looking at? Can't take it? Zhuofan turned towards Long Kue. She struggled to hold her smile back as she berated. You're just a junior, just like this lady. You better get your act together when you see Uncle Zhuo again. Don't be cheeky and learn some manners. Long Kue stuck out her chin, passing him by with an attitude to match. Worse, when she just passed him, Zhuofan noticed a wry smile on her face. Zhuofan was trembling now, close to spitting blood. Curses? Even this wench is joining in? You're lucky Drifting Flowers Edifice's people are around, or I'll be pulling your pants down and tanning your ass. I am a sworn brother with Long Zhuo. I am a senior here. You're the cheeky one. Zhuofan felt bleak. Long Zhuo passed by him and he glared back as if to say, What, you're also going to kick me around? Long Zhuo just shrugged and walked. Jian Suifeng stroked his beard with a smile, walking after Xie Tianyang. If he didn't see it himself, he wouldn't have believed the freak Zhuofan that killed Yu Giki would have a day like this, all sullen and downcast. Once all were gone, Xiao Dandan sighed and smiled. That was dangerous. Lucky I called my master in time to save you. Who told you to? Zhuofan glared impatiently and howled. How could they dare think to mess with me if not for you two showing up? Xiao Dandan lowered her head, feeling deeply wronged. Peony Overseer flared. Song Yu, don't think you can always rely on Edifice Lord and pick on my disciple. Humph, you think I care for your fate? I only came to save you because Dandan asked me to. Humph, men are all the same, ungrateful. Dandan, let's go. He isn't worthy of you. Peony Overseer pulled Xiao Dandan away. Xiao Dandan looked back at him, but Zhuofan rolled his eyes. Zhuofan thought for a moment, then walked to the guest hall. It is time to lay the cards out for Qingcheng. Exchanging Bodhi Jade sap for the safety of Drifting Flowers Edifice is a good enough deal for them. Chapter 120 Strange Formula. Chapter 120 Strange Formula. The guest hall was quiet now that all the bustle was over. Only a bleak and desolate figure lay collapsed on the ground. Knowing to be Qingcheng, Zhuofan walked to her, his words blunt. Edifice Lord, I need to speak with you. It's regarding Drifting Flowers Edifice's future. I am sure you'd be interested. Zhuofan seemed like a different person, unlike the silly and naive Song Yu. He had a crafty smile and a deep gaze, yet his words fell on deaf ears. Zhuofan looked down to find Qingcheng's eyes dead. She didn't hear a word he said. Come on. You're a profound heaven expert and an edifice lord on top of that. Yet you can't take a hit? A man's betrayal was enough to bring you to this state? Zhuofan shook his head. No wonder men have been rulers since antiquity. A woman's heart is too fragile. Though, big sis, even if you want to give up, do that after you listen to my plan. At least give me the Bodhi Jade sap while you're at it. Zhuofan sighed. If this had happened yesterday, he would have laughed, thinking it would be easy to take the Bodhi Jade sap and just leave, but now, things have changed. If anything happened to Qingcheng, the Drifting Flowers edifice would collapse. Wouldn't that be to Regent Estate's satisfaction? For now, he couldn't steal the Bodhi Jade sap and could only politely ask for it. Edifice Lord Chu, wake up. Listen to my plan to rescue Drifting Flowers edifice. I promise you will like it. Zhuofan waved his hand in front of her. Qingcheng was still unresponsive, her eyes blank. Though the tears proved she was very much alive. Sighing, Zhuofan found himself out of options. After a person locked their heart to escape the cruel reality, the only one capable of saving them was themselves. Sister Chuchu, why are you like this? Zhuofan sighed, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, Qingcheng moved and the light came back in her eyes. What did you call me? Zhuofan was startled, then happy. It seems his unintentional call brought this foolish lady back. He rushed to say, Sister Chuchu, wake up. Zhuofan shook to her as he used bewitching whispers. His voice was amplified hundreds of times in her ear. Qingcheng shivered and woke up, looking back at Zhuofan. Her eyes softened. So it's you. Thank you. It's nothing, as long as you're awake now. Nodding, Zhuofan laughed inside. By the way, I have something. No need to say it. Nothing matters at this point. Qingcheng stood up as she had made her newfound resolve. Her eyes flashed. Drifting Flowers edifice has entered such a crisis, and it's my responsibility to do everything to save it. This isn't your fault. And Drifting Flowers edifice still has. Song Yu. Qingcheng didn't seem to have heard him as she smiled warmly. I really need to thank you. I don't know how you got Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Sword Marquise Abode to help us, to give us one last chance. Without this chance, I know that we would have been stripped of all dignity. Actually. Alright, you don't need to explain. I understand. She used a delicate hand to help Zhuofan up and smiled. I know you want to comfort me, but there's no need. I realize it now. There is still time until the 100-pill meeting starts, and hope you can help me with some things. She pulled Zhuofan outside. The pitiful Zhuofan tried many times to get a word in, but was always shut down before he could finish. His only choice was to let Qingcheng pull him. Big sis, can't you let me speak? I have a way to save Drifting Flowers edifice. Zhuofan sighed. How does this woman speak so fast? I can't get a word in. The moment I open my mouth, she lets out 10 words. It is just for some Bodhi Jade sap. Is it really necessary to cut me off every time? Zhuofan shook his head and stopped talking. Regardless of how he worded it, Qingcheng had a way to shut him up each time, as if talking to a child. Zhuofan was silent the whole trip, pulled along to a desolate cliff at the back of the edifice. And the cliff's wall had faint energy waves leaking from it, a barrier. Drifting Flowers edifice disciple Qingcheng, requesting an audience with Aunt Tao. Qingcheng bowed and shouted. An invisible ripple echoed, and the barrier opened. An aged voice traveled from within. Chuchu, you are the Lord now. You do not need to act this way for this old lady. Aunt Tao is the master of this place. I may be the Lord, but I dare not enter without permission. Qingcheng let out a rare smile and pulled Zhuofan inside. The instant he got in, he sneezed. It was so cold that he could feel it even through his diamond body. A cold cave such as this had to contain an extreme treasure. Sure enough, a 10-meter square block of black-bluish ice laid in the middle of the cave. Any cultivator would greatly improve their speed of cultivation here. This place was a naturally formed treasure, although a tad lacking compared with Bodhi root. It was still enough to make a radiant stage expert become greedy. On the ice lay an old woman in intricate robes. She seemed in her 50s, but the black and blue on her face pointed out that she was poisoned, and from the looks of it, it had to be consuming most of her body. Damn. This old woman is so poisoned and can't move, yet she can still release this barrier? Just what's her cultivation? I didn't think it possible Drifting Flowers Edifice could have another expert. Zhuo spoke, then a voice filled with contempt entered his ears. Humph, foolish child, that is a living corpse. It cannot hear, cannot speak, cannot move. How can it release the barrier? I am the one who did it. Frowning, Zhuo turned to see deeper inside the cave. There laid an old woman cross-legged. She wore black clothes, and with how dusky it was in here, Zhuo didn't notice her at first. Aunt Tao. He has very low cultivation and only a bit of physical strength. It is normal he didn't see you. Please don't blame him. Qingcheng smiled. Aunt Tao teased. Girl, I have never seen you protect a man before. Is he your? Did you show it to him? Qingcheng blushed and nodded. Zhuo was staring blankly, unable to make sense of anything. See what? Treasure? Song Yu, she is our top alchemist, Aunt Tao. Quickly bow. Qingcheng pushed him forward. Zhuo helplessly went, feeling more bizarre. Why suddenly bring me to your head alchemist? To teach her? In any case, teaching her depends on her aptitude. Zhuo did not wish to bow right now, but he had to show respect. But when he caught a glimpse of the old woman, he jumped in fright. She had white hair, but also a green and blue face from being poisoned. Not worse than the old woman on the ice rainbow cloud palm. One look was enough to recognize the cause. What, did I scare you? Ha ha ha. Aunt Tao showed a frightening smile. Not all of Drifting Flowers Edifice's people are beauties. Song Yu, don't be rude and apologize. Qingcheng urged, yet Zhuo didn't react, only watching her face as he muttered, Wait, it's similar but not quite like the rainbow cloud palm. The old woman's face moved and showed surprise. Child, you seem quite knowledgeable of poisons. To be honest, this isn't because of rainbow cloud palm, but from when I failed to refine its antidote. Are you making pills or poison? Zhuo shouted. Ha ha ha, well said. With a sad smile, Aunt Tao felt mournful. Whether it's poison or medicine, I am yet unsure. But in these 3 years of research, I have come to understand this is like a pill yet not a pill, a poison yet not a poison. Vicious Pill King, you are indeed so remarkable that I can't even compare. With a crazed laughter, Aunt Tao fixed her eyes on the stone wall. Zhuo followed her eyes and squinted. A human skin was sprawled on the wall, holding a record of rainbow cloud palm's antidote formula. Even with Zhuo's extensive knowledge, he found it weird. How is this possible? Zhuo muttered. The 7 ingredients each is a rare natural treasure. But the refining is that of a poison or a pill. Being silent for a moment, Zhuo walked to the living dead on the ancient ice. He touched her hand and injected his yuan qi. As he expected, she was poisoned by rainbow cloud palm, and just like Qingcheng, she had the Bodhi Jade sap restraining the 7 poisons. With the help of this ancient ice, her life was preserved, only that Qingcheng's poisoned state was less grave, while this living dead was filled with it. Even with an antidote, her recovery was slim. If the ancient ice hadn't kept her in suspended animation, her life would have been over. Zhuo turned to the formula on the wall and felt something was off about it. It's real, but there's a trick to it. Zhuo's eyes flashed with a strange light. Chapter 121 Grandmother. Chapter 121 Grandmother. Alright, child, this is a secret formula of Pill King Hall. I have studied it hard for many years, yet its workings elude me. You may have some passable skill in alchemy, but there's no way you can see through its mysteries after just a glance. Picking up on his surface thoughts, Aunt Tao shook her head. She then turned to Qingcheng. Girl, you didn't come here just for his sake, right? Qingcheng's cheek went rosy and bowed as she related the feast's events in all its details. Aunt Tao cried out in shock. What? Even Regent estate came? Ah, this must be fate. Crying towards the heavens, Aunt Tao wiped the dry tears from her eyes and muttered, Chuchu, what are you planning to do next? Will you let them destroy Drifting Flower's edifice? Or will you plead the Venerable to fight them to the death? Venerable? Zhuo raised an eyebrow in thought. Each of the 7 noble houses raised their own venerable. They were radiant stage cultivators, their last line of defense. They would never ask a venerable's intervention unless a calamity struck. This confirmed that Drifting Flower's edifice was on the brink of annihilation. When he thought about it, going against another radiant stage expert would most likely end in the Regent estate's venerable being wounded for a few decades. I guess it is another way to slow down their conquest. Sister Chuchu, ask the venerable to step in and let them know we will fight tooth and nail with them. Drifting Flower's edifice isn't their playground. Zhuo instigated, the more chaos, the better it was for him. Qingcheng shook her head, her eyes firm. Asking the venerable will trigger a war among the 7 houses. The empire would be plunged into civil war, and the people would fall into despair. My heart cannot bear it. If Drifting Flower's edifice falls, we, sisters, will part ways, but in case of war, Drifting Flower's edifice will lose for sure and my sisters will perish with it. As a lord, I cannot ignore their fates. Now I see why grandmother chose you, the least qualified, as the lord despite unanimous disapproval. Aunt Tao nodded with a faint smile. Zhuo, on the other hand, rolled his eyes. A softie's the lot of em. If it were him, he would have divided and then conquered, attack openly and overtly, spreading slaughter everywhere and throw the empire upside down. That was where his chance laid, to rise above from that madness. I would rather turn my back on the world than have the world turn its back on me. The demonic cultivator path was cruel and ambitious, with everyone stepping on others to reach the peak. Unfortunately, Qingcheng was not a demonic cultivator. Her kind nature was just not cut out for this, unlike Zhuo's bold nature. And there are the overseers poisoned by that old dog. Qingcheng gazed with worry at Aunt Tao. This is why I want to ask Aunt Tao to step out and protect the Bodhi root. Perhaps our only chance of getting the antidote is if we give it in exchange. You plan on making me face that accursed man in alchemy. Aunt Tao seemed to have heard the biggest joke, cackling like mad. But in her lunacy, a hint of woe was hidden. Qingcheng, look at me. In my trials of unraveling his rainbow cloud palm, I am now neither human nor demon. Do you think my feeble skill is enough to win? Her heart in pain, Qingcheng whispered something in Aunt Tao's ear. Aunt Tao's eyes lit up and nodded. I see. So that's what you're planning. But will it work? Qingcheng's eyes were dead set, her nod firm. Then I will die a worthy death. So that's why you brought this child. Sighing, Aunt Tao patted Qingcheng tenderly on the shoulder. She then turned serious as she eyed Zhuo. Kid, come here and kowtow to this grandmother 3 times. Zhuo was clueless. Grandmother? Where? Following her finger, he discovered she was referring to the living dead. He was still out of the loop, but the dead ought to be shown respect, he guessed. So kowtowing wasn't that big of a deal. And so, Zhuo was quite casual in his kneeling and knocking his head on the ground as he did. He realized Qingcheng was kneeling next to him, kowtowing just as well. Good. The rite is complete. Zhuo was still confused when Aunt Tao shouted, and asked for him to kneel again. This time, he was against it. He was first clueless to what was going on, but now he had to kneel again to this damnable old bat? But Qingcheng's piercing eyes left Zhuo with no other choice. Crud, I'm Song Yu now and can only kneel. Aunt Tao and Qingcheng noticed his proud eyes and shook their heads next. Aunt Tao began reciting the teaching of Drifting Flowers Edifice's ancestors, along with their 1,000-year-old history. Zhuo wasn't at all content listening to some senseless rambling, but around the middle, Zhuo started paying attention. It turned out Drifting Flowers Edifice and Qingcheng Hall were in a tight alliance, frequently marrying one's disciples to the other also. The Qingcheng Hall's rainbow cloud palm wasn't so strong in the past. But thanks to Drifting Flowers Edifice providing Bodhi Jade sap, it slowly improved, becoming what it was today, the dread of all the 7 houses later, because a Qingcheng Hall and Drifting Flowers Edifice couple quarreled, which led to a fight. It ended up with the husband using the rainbow cloud palm on the wife, and the wife returned, and raged back to Drifting Flowers Edifice. Drifting Flowers Edifice didn't take it seriously at first, using Bodhi Jade sap to cure her. But they were shocked to find the Bodhi Jade sap, which could save one from imminent death, to be ineffective. From that moment, Drifting Flowers Edifice realized the seriousness of the situation. Qingcheng Hall's poison was out of control, so they cut off their supply of Bodhi Jade sap. This enraged Qingcheng Hall, and the houses became bitter enemies ever since until 100 years ago. The Qingcheng Hall kept harassing Drifting Flowers Edifice and killing 8 overseers with rainbow cloud palm. Not even the lords were exempted, with 2 of them falling victim. As well, the imperial family turned a blind eye to their feud. How could they not? Qingcheng Hall was supplying them with pills. It got to the point where Qingcheng Hall drove Drifting Flowers Edifice close to destruction several times. One thing had to be said. When there's a will, there's a way. In Drifting Flowers Edifice's hour of most desperate need, a strange woman stepped up, Qingcheng. She was none other than the living dead laying in the ancient ice. Not only was she strong, she was also wise. On one hand, she repelled Qingcheng Hall's attacks, and, on the other, connected with the other houses through marriage, expanding their power. This had led to Qingcheng Hall to suffer countless and heavy defeats over the last century. Everyone in the 7 houses had to admire this woman's skill. They all came to the realization that without her, there would have been no Drifting Flowers Edifice today. Even Qingcheng Hall had to admire her. The people came to call her the Lady of Steel, while the disciples of Drifting Flowers Edifice called her grandmother. She was by no means the Edifice Lord, but she assisted 3 generations of them, holding Drifting Flowers Edifice strong. It was a pity the Lady of Steel ended up falling in an enemy's ploy. A decade ago, vicious Qingcheng had 3 overseers under his control. They betrayed the house and called out for help. Qingcheng went to their rescue, only to fall into their trap. Heavily wounded and poisoned by the rainbow cloud palm, she still managed to escape their encirclement. They always thought Qingcheng Hall was behind this, but now they knew it was Regent estate all along. Her state was very precarious on her return, with but 1 breath away from death. In this moment of impending demise, she made a bold and radical decision. To make Qingcheng the Edifice Lord, passing on the mantle to a mere 13-year-old girl, with Iris and Peony overseers at her side. This decision earned disapproval among many overseers, but they could only bear it in silence before the might of their grandmother. In light of what happened, Qingcheng's most trusted allies were the Iris and Peony overseers. With time, people started to think grandmother was dead, when in fact Aunt Tao froze her on her last breath and had turned her into a living dead. This ended the sorrowful history of Drifting Flowers Edifice. Qingcheng dabbed her eyes and recalled those times as she looked at grandmother. Aunt Tao was looking stern at Zhuo. Kid, did you get all of it? Zhuo nodded. Yes. Good. Now you will be the next one to pass it on. The Drifting Flowers Edifice will never die as long as someone remembers it. She laughed and helped Zhuo up before he joined his and Qingcheng's delicate hands together. Just for a few days, take care. Aunt Tao walked towards the cave wall and entered contemplation. Zhuo was about to ask for clarification when Qingcheng pulled him before the grandmother. She bowed again and left without turning around. With a rumble, the stone door closed and the array started again. Sister Chuchu, what is going on? Zhuo asked, puzzled. He didn't understand why Qingcheng prevented him from speaking and brought him to listen to their history. Qingcheng shook her head and showed a rare but warm smile. From now on, call me just Chuchu or Qingcheng. Zhuo blinked. He was clueless to what Chuchu meant, but her gaze evoked something foreign in his heart. Silly. Qingcheng pulled his hand as she continued, you are now one of us. Come, I will take you to see the members of my family. Chapter 122, Heaven Toppling Pill. Chapter 122, Heaven Toppling Pill. Qingcheng took Zhuo to a barren hill. 3 lonely graves struck a dreadful image in the midst of harsh and cruel winds. They are my parents and my younger brother. Qingcheng sighed. Zhuo noticed that the graves had written on them, beloved mother, beloved father. However, the foremost one was a blank slab, with a black cloak fluttering on it. On a closer look, there were some words on the cloak, Heaven Toppling Pill. Such audacious words! Zhuo cried. Every cultivator knew that alchemy was a wide and long winding road. Even if you invested all your energy in it, you'd only pick up a few things along the way. What's more, refining skills abided by heaven's laws. How arrogant could one be to say the words, Heaven Toppling Pill? Not even that narrow-minded vicious pill king would dare utter such a thing. He turned puzzled to Qingcheng, who replied with a warm smile, you must find them self-centered, right? Zhuo nodded. Qingcheng walked to the grave and caressed the cloak. This is my younger brother, Qingtian. And this cloak is something I made for him. Qingtian. Zhuo raised an eyebrow as he recalled. Wasn't he the spy sent by Drifting Flower's Edifice to the vicious Pill King? It turns out to be her brother. But sending her own brother as a spy seems Drifting Flower's Edifice has run out of talents. Zhuo smacked his lips. Song Yu. Qingcheng turned to him with a soft gaze, catching him by surprise. Did you know? When you gave me fruits in the slums, when you fought for my sake, I saw Qingtian in you. Especially when you fought Yen Fu. Your reckless and stubborn nature is his spitting image. Qingcheng had tears glistening in her eyes, recalling the past. Zhuo blushed from shame. He always thought he got close to Qingcheng thanks to Dong Tianba's skirt-chasing skills. It turned out he was only a substitute for her brother. Embarrassed, Zhuo muttered, So Sister Chuchu took me for your little brother? Glaring at him, Qingcheng reproached, I told you to stop saying sister. Did you forget? Zhuo was baffled. A substitute little brother can't call you sister? Qingcheng noticed his reaction and shook her head. Perhaps I did consider you as my younger brother at first. But after today... Qingcheng blushed and muttered, Now you aren't my little brother anymore. She digressed so badly that Zhuo had no clue what she was saying. Though it didn't look like she'd explain as she spoke. My parents were normal disciples of Drifting Flower's Edifice, which fell from Pill King Hall's poison. From a young age, I and Qingtian vowed revenge. Grandmother found our talent worthy of her attention and taught us herself. However, Qingtian was a man and Drifting Flower's Edifice had only one use for such people, marry their disciples and carry on Drifting Flower's Edifice forward. Qingtian's refining skill was beyond mere talent. He was unwilling to waste away living like this and defied Drifting Flower's Edifice in becoming Pill King Hall's disciple. Wasn't he a spy? How come you used defy? Zhuo interrupted. Qingcheng nodded. You are correct, but we were unaware of the ploy at that time. I even wrote a letter to break all ties with him. Only 3 years later did he return to Drifting Flower's Edifice. We then understood this was grandmother's plan all along. He did not abandon his mission and stole the Pill King Hall's Rainbow Cloud Palm's antidote formula. Because of Qingcheng Hall's strict guard, he used a concoction to carve the formula on his back. It would never be visible unless a special liquid was poured on it. You're saying that human skin in the cave is your brother's? Zhuofan's heart shuddered. Qingcheng went through inhuman lengths for Drifting Flower's Edifice. He had to use human skin to take the formula with him. It was obvious how dangerous, how hard this mission was. This also gave Zhuofan some plans he could use for the Luo clan. Should I also get some diehards and send them inside the other houses as a contingency? But his plan would have to have far more impact than Drifting Flower's edifices. While Drifting Flower's edifice wasted a decade for a formula, he had greater plots developing in his mind. Like getting his spies in the houses through some special means and reporting their every movement. The Nine Serenities' secret records had a secret art pertaining to demonic cultivators to aid in this endeavor, but it was too cruel. The secret art wasn't used on enemies but on his own men. He could only harden his heart if he were to handle the 7 houses. Zhuofan's eyes flashed with coldness. Qingcheng continued, oblivious of his reactions. Qingtian's return had everyone excited. With Rainbow Cloud Palm's antidote, we had no reason to fear Qingcheng Hall. While everyone was eager, Aunt Tao and Qingtian began refining it. However, the formula was too much of an oddity. The overseers who were already poisoned died when taking the refined antidote, while the refiners got poison themselves. And your brother died from poison? Heaven can be so cruel to geniuses. Zhuofan sighed. That was the truth of it, and he felt close to tears. The antidote was a 7th-grade pill. He was a freak of an alchemy genius to participate in its refining at such a young age. It is truly a pity his life ended so soon. Qingcheng shook her head, eyes downcast. No, he was killed by the other overseers. What, but didn't he earn great merit? Why? Zhuofan was startled but soon figured it out. Who was the most unfortunate in this world? The nameless hero. Why? Ha ha ha, because neither side got what they wanted. Qingcheng confirmed it. My other sisters suspected him as being Qingcheng Hall's spy, that he brought a fake formula to ruin the house. They took advantage of me, Peony Overseer and Iris Overseer's absence, and beat him to death. This is Drifting Flower's Edifice's shame. We had no choice but to say he died from poisoning. While Aunt Tao still believed the formula is real, studying it painstakingly. Tears fell from Qingcheng's eyes. Zhuofan wanted to comfort her, but she waved her hand to refuse, stopping him in his tracks. Because Qingtian's body was in such condition, I could only bury him here. I was afraid he would be cursed and reviled, so I didn't leave his name behind. Later, I moved my parents' graves to have them reunited here. Qingcheng pulled Zhuofan's hand into kowtowing 3 times before the graves. Songyu, when I die, please bring my body here to rest with them. Qingcheng's words were filled with sorrow and sounded very much like a dying wish, leaving Zhuofan puzzled. What is she planning? Silly girl, with me here, there's nothing to worry about. Zhuofan showed a rare serious expression. Qingcheng was startled. She rarely saw the stubborn Zhuofan display any semblance of reliability like right now. She soon rolled her eyes. You are never satisfied, are you? I told you to call me by my name and now you dare call me silly? Haha. Bro Dong said this will bring women a feeling of safety. What, you don't like it? Zhuofan scratched his head, playing the fool. She glared at him. That brother of yours is a wastrel. Stay away from him. Zhuofan shrugged. Now, follow me to the last place. After seeing grandmother and paying respects to her family, Qingcheng took the cloak and pulled Zhuofan as she soared. 15 minutes later, they were at a familiar place. Zhuofan was amazed to find this place was the slums where they first met. Because of the Scourge woman, none dared to get close. Why are we here again? Zhuofan was baffled. Right, why is the great Edifice Lord hiding here as a Scourge woman? Qingcheng took a deep breath. I had no choice. Enraged by what happened to Qingtian, I went to Yensong to settle the score, only to be wounded and poisoned as well. I didn't let anyone know this, afraid of affecting Drifting Flower's Edifice's stability. I claimed to enter seclusion when in fact, I have been using the moon's power to suppress the poison. This was how I came to be known as a Scourge Woman. Zhuofan nodded and Qingcheng suddenly draped the black cloak on his shoulders. Zhuofan looked at her. Startled Qingcheng smiled. Song Yu, I don't have much time. I hope you can take Qingtian's place, letting me feel the warmth of a family. Ha ha ha, so I'm still your brother in the end, Zhuofan laughed in spite of himself. Bam. Suddenly, Qingcheng embraced his broad back and closed her eyes. Zhuofan was startled and did not continue to speak. I told you, you are not my brother. Just let me feel the warmth of a family one last time. Qingcheng stared into his eyes. She hesitated before removing her veil. Her outstanding beauty was once again revealed to him, making his heart freeze. He was plunged into a daze a second time, despite seeing her once already. Qingcheng noticed, and a hit of red colored her cheeks. Song Yu, Qingtian told me my smile can topple cities. His pill can topple heaven. I hope you will let me relive our short warm memories together. Smiley face, Qingcheng equals city toppling. Star reader, Qingtian equals heaven toppling. Zhuofan could not even process her words. He was too confused and lost, only nodding unconsciously. Qingcheng showed a smile of gratitude. Thank you. The two began experiencing the lives of a man and a woman in a quiet and decrepit house. They were like average people, with Zhuofan repairing the house and Qingcheng washing and cooking before eating together the following 3 days. Zhuofan never felt so at peace, he would have never thought it possible before. How could the Grand Demonic Emperor live his days in such a vile way? Yet, these days were spent without any bit of worry or remorse, as if he was living a dream. Unfortunately, this was an act that fell in a pair of vicious eyes hiding in the darkness. He was a profound heaven expert. The figure left and soon arrived at Drifting Flower's Edifice's guest rooms. He quietly entered one that was filled with people. Vicious Pill King, Mary Woods's Lin Zetian, Hell Valley's fifth elder, were all here. And leading them was none other than Regent Estate's second young master, Huangpu. Qingyun. The figure whispered in the second young master's ear. Bam. The teacup in his hand was shattered into pieces. Huangpu. Qingyun was enraged. Second young master, what happened? Vicious Pill King asked, clenching his fists. Huangpu. Qingyun spat. That bitch took off her veil for that punk. Huangpu. Qingyun ran out, flying straight to the slums. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.